All right, you are all set to go. Whenever you're ready, Greg.
Great, very good, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the November meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission. My name is Greg Young, I'm the chair of the commission. And this open meeting is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Healy's executive order of March 29th, 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Clark.
Here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Todd Helwig. Todd Helwig. You can't talk.
You give a thumbs up there?
Thumbs up.
I don't think he hears us.
Kelly Marston. You're muted, Kelly.
Really?
No, there you go.
Here?
You're here. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Vincent Vignali.
Here.
Kaylee Olson.
Here.
Thank you. Some business ground rules. For presenters and/or applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until the name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by a roll call vote. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click Raise Hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will call each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing by the Northborough Remote Meetings tab on the town's website. Justin, you ready?
Yes. All right. Okay. The meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and or the Northborough Stormwater Management and Land Disturbance Bylaw. A notice of intent and stormwater management and land disturbance permit application, 150 plus or minus southwest cutoff, map 122, parcel 4, owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, DCR flood control to remove and remediate contaminated soil under the Mass Contingency Plan. Work is proposed within bordering vegetated wetland, bordering land subject to flooding, the 25-foot no disturbance setback, and 100-foot buffer zone. The work will alter more than 1 acre of land. Also, a request for determination of applicability, 69 Maple Lane, map 65, parcel 41, owned by Edward and Melissa Clark, to remove a fallen tree in Bartlett Pond. Work is proposed within land underwater, bank, bordering vegetated wetland, bordering land subject to flooding, 25-foot no disturbance setback, and the 100-foot buffer zone. Also, a stormwater management and land disturbance permit application, 3, 7, and 11 Reservoir Street, maps, let's see, map 42, parcel 51, map 42, parcel 52, and map 42, parcel 53, owned by the estate of Robert Romeo, care of James Romeo, to construct a common driveway to serve 3 lots with associated septic systems, drainage, and site work. The work will alter more than 1 acre of land. Finally, a stormwater management and land disturbance permit application for 305 Crawford Street, map 57, parcel 50, owned by Aaron Dory, to construct 1 new single-family residence with associated septic, stormwater treatment, and utilities. The work will alter more than 1 acre of land. That's it.
Very good. Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
Todd, welcome back. Could you please announce yourself for the record?
I am here.
Todd Helwig is there. Very good. Okay, meeting minutes from October 21st. Vinny has sent them out. Kelly, you were absent, so you cannot vote on these. Any comments, questions, concerns by the commission on the October 21 meeting minutes? Okay, no issues. Then we need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion made by Todd. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Justin. Roll call vote. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston. Oh,
I don't
nope,
think
you
I
cannot
can vote.
Very good. And I will vote yes. Just writing down the list, very good. Meeting minutes are approved and accepted. Okay. Todd, do you have laryngitis, something going on? It's hard to speak?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I
No, I
couldn't.
didn't know if that was your
No,
system or
After 4 years of doing this, I finally got a new computer with a proper, and I can't get any audio to come out of it now. So I can see you, but I couldn't hear anything anybody was saying.
okay, good. We're all in the same
So I
boat.
reverted.
All right, moving around here, let's see. 119 Burfoot Road, 88 Trail, the Senior Center. Let me bring in Scott. Hey, Scott, I bring you in as a panelist. Any second now. There he is. Thank
Hello,
you, sir.
Mr. Chairman. The commission.
Okay, the background here, I think we all know what it is. We saw some extra work that was done with the ADA compliant trail around the senior center. DEP heard about it. We've heard from them. It looks like a violation of the wetlands, and we're just curious in terms of how this came to be. I know that we were working with Scott, with you and your engineering team for several months on this, and we all came to a good conclusion here. So.
Well,
Can you enlighten
sorry, Mr. Chairman. I provided
Can't
the
hear you, Scott. You
memorandum.
muted?
Not muted.
You're very faint,
Can you hear me now?
very faintly.
Still.
I can hear him
Matter.
strong, Greg. So
Yeah, it sounds okay to me, Greg.
are we all
Try it
soft?
again.
Everybody's very clear to me.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. So I provided the memorandum to the commission, to you, Greg, as the chair, and also to Vinny, the conservation agent, regarding the occurrences out on the peninsula. The contractor did not do that work. We had a very tight budget, and we were struggling to keep the scope down. So we eliminated some work out on the peninsula during the permitting process. Near the end of the project, Public Works went in under my direction to reinstall a bench that was removed back in 2020 from the peninsula. The bench was removed during COVID. It was somewhat deteriorated. It probably could have got another couple of years out of it, but we decided to get it out of the way. Once that was removed, the project was nearing completion. We had some extra funds available to purchase another bench for the project. So we purchased the bench. I went out on the site. I explained to the crew to clear out the area, put in a concrete pad for the bench so it's wheelchair accessible, and put erosion controls around the limit of work. The limit of work went to the water's edge when it shouldn't. It should have been It should have been installed similar to what you see in the aerial image on the attachment to the memorandum, which is what the conditions were in 2020. There was a clear vegetated buffer of 2 to 4 feet around the perimeter of the peninsula. The intent was to keep that there. My intent is to reinstall that with appropriate species, preferably some low growing ones, just so that the seniors and the users of the trail can enjoy the vista out there. It was a miscommunication on my part between the crew and a bit of a robust effort on some employees who may not be quite as well versed with your requirements in the Wetland Protection Act than those here.
Okay. So you're going to plant in the springtime.
Yeah, in the spring, I'd like to clear out, a 4-foot swath around the perimeter, which is similar to what was there before. Work with either Vinnie or a professional wetland scientist to come up with a species and a planting plan, get it to the commission. The commission likes the planting plan, or Vinnie approves it, and then we can get out there and install it. I'd like to get that done relatively early in the spring so it has a chance to thrive with the odd precipitation patterns we have had lately. I'd like to get as much water on the plants as possible, so the earlier the better.
Okay. What about the pad, concrete pad? That's a violation. And that
The
would never have been
concrete-
approved. If that came to us in the plan, we would not have approved that, is my guess.
No, the concrete pad is required for the bench to be there. It's required to be accessible, so you need to have a companion seat next to it for a wheelchair.
Yeah, my point though, Scott, is if that was on the plan originally, which was not, there was no bench on the plan at the Peninsula Point, there was no nothing. If that was on the plan as presented, we would have probably rejected that because it was inside the 25 foot. And we've had a
Okay.
couple of instances in town where very similar situations took place, and we asked the people to take the pads out, and they did.
I mean, we have a lot of work that's well within the 15-foot no touch, the 25-foot no disturb. Probably 20% of the project is within those criterion, especially across that causeway in between.
Yep.
I mean, the alternative, I can file an amended NOI if that's what's the desire of the commission.
Well, let's see what the commission thinks. Questions, comments? Do we need a picture, or you all know what we're talking about?
I have it on my desktop. If you want me to share, I can show you. But I don't have a photograph of the conditions currently. I only
Sure,
have
I'll
the 2020 aerial image.
Let's take a look. And I know you got to get out of here, Scott. What's your timeline?
I have to be on the select board meeting at 7 o'clock, but maybe 7:15, 7:30. So I have time.
Okay.
So this is the peninsula in 2020.
Yep.
There's a table here and a bench here. They both were removed. The bench was deteriorated. The table was removed, and it's actually back here in the woods. We got to get rid of it. There's some other stuff back there that we need to remove. Then the pad is roughly right here.
Okay. Vinny, do you have the picture of the current one of the pad?
I do. Yep.
Can we take a look at that, please?
Let's see if I can pull that up. Too many things in the way here. Is the picture coming up for you?
No.
You don't see the picture?
No, I
Okay.
just see a listing of what you have there in the file. There, no,
If you open up the picture venue and you go to share screen, you should see it somewhere and just pick that one.
Yep.
okay, I got a picture now. That looks
Yep.
like the end of the peninsula with
Yeah,
the
this
motion
is-
control devices up. And it was seated.
And this was the other.
Yep.
Going southwest. And that was the picture we had of the area.
Okay, that's a good picture. Yep. So what basically what was approved was everything up to the end of that walkway.
Yeah, the walkway was actually cut a little short of what was originally approved. He asked how far out on the peninsula do you want? I just stopped him right at the belly of it. So just stop before it juts out. And they did. The design had it maybe 2 feet further, not a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got I can pull that up too. Come on. Are you seeing the plan on this one, or is it a different?
It's the same, we're seeing the same picture of the pad at the end.
All right, gotta change that one out, share a different screen.
That's a plan.
So here we are with the approved plan. It showed this distance here to the edge of the wetlands there. So
Yep.
it looked like it came to the end of the pavement. This is the approved paved walkway.
Mm-hmm.
And so the new pad is here. Does that seem right, Scott?
Yeah, roughly. I mean, within a couple feet here or there, that's where it is. I'm not, splitting hairs, but yeah, that's where it is.
Okay, good. You can take that down, Vinny, from my perspective. Commissions, questions, comments, concerns here.
How thick is that pad?
4 inches with 6 inches of gravel bar underneath. It's a typical bench or picnic table pad.
I guess just speaking for myself, I mean, personally, for me, I feel like the whole trail is for ADA accessibility, and there was a picnic table, there was a bench out there, and to make things ADA accessible, you need that pad around it, you need a spot for a wheelchair and everything to get in there. So to me, if it was something that was on the original plans, I probably would have been okay with that, just because you're taking a picnic table and a bench today and you're bringing it up to ADA standards. So to create a walkway out there in a spot where somebody could sit is okay. I think where we saw it last month, at least for me, it was really the clearing down to the wetlands and everything that was a real change. And I think if the town plans to revegetate that area, work with a wetland scientist to get the right plants and everything installed in there, I'm okay with that and kind of the way it's going to move forward. So just me personally, but I'm okay with the way it was presented tonight.
Good. Anybody else?
I am committed to getting a wetland scientist to lay out the plantings. That's not what I do. I mean, I literally just Googled wetland plants and saw some low growing blueberries, which I thought would be kind of cool, but that's the extent of my knowledge. So I'll work with a professional wetland scientist and Vinny, if the commission chooses to put an appropriate design around. I do want residents and seniors to enjoy the view there. It's been, it's nice for them to be able to get out there.
Anything else? We're not going to fertilize and mow that area, Scott, yeah?
Correct. We're going to trim it down once a year like we do any vegetated area, but not the wetland plants, just the around the bench. Otherwise, it's going to be overrun with saplings and the like.
But no fertilizing, no mowing.
No fertilizing. It'd be the same thing along the trail. They go up and around the trail with a weed whacker and just trim a couple feet along the edges just to keep the poison ivy and undergrowth back. No fertilizer, no pesticide, no herbicide.
Okay,
So, it's not awesome, right? Uh, we wouldn't have allowed it in the first place. There's no ADA accessibility exception to wetlands requirements. But then on the other hand, ripping it out is gonna do no good, not gonna make the situation better. So I guess kind of the lesson learned, and don't touch anything over there unless you tell Vinny about it first.
I understand, and I did not believe that there was going to be an issue with the slab, in that we were putting back what was there before, but making it compliant. So I understand, and I don't agree with the extent of the clearing in any way. Trust me, that's not. I was as shocked as I'm sure Greg and Vinny were when you went out there and saw the end of the peninsula clear cut.
your first thoughts are probably great. Now I'm going to hear from Vinny and Greg in this one. This is going to happen. So, anything else?
Does this have to be treated in the winter for snow or ice because it's ADA, or there's not gonna be salt or anything?
No, there'll be no snow removal on it. No de-icing materials. There'll be no equipment on it, other than access for mowers, kind of in the senior center area. There's a slope that goes from the senior center down. That triangular grass slope that was not established. We're going to put some ground cover there that's better to support that soil rather than just grass that's almost impossible to mow.
So Greg, I'll just give my opinion. I actually have a different opinion. I actually think you should take that slab out of there. I don't think it'll cause any more disturbance than what it did putting in. You could probably just reach it from the end of that pavement that's already there. But the real reason I think is just to, my concern is that if the town is not held to the highest standard, then it sets a bad example for the rest of the residents of the town. So I agree with Greg. If that had been on the plan, I wouldn't have voted for it to allow it. So to allow it after the fact, I think is a mistake. So that's my opinion.
Okay. I'm not sure, like, the path is and this is hindsight, I guess, but the path is no closer to the slab is no closer to the resource than the path in other locations. So if we were in the original design and this was included, I would argue that point, that the path is actually much closer in some instances to the resource than the slab. We will, maintain the peninsula as it was previously, leaving the vegetated buffers along the perimeter, obviously. But
Okay.
Do you have the original photo again? All I have is what's on Mass Mapper
yep.
from like 2019.
Let me share that. This is the peninsula in 2020. Here, there's a picnic table here, and there's an old bench here that's dilapidated, both of which were removed when the project construction occurred. The new bench is, as Vinny indicated, right around here, and it's on a concrete pad.
Did you say the original bench was also on a concrete pad? We just can't see it on there?
No, there was no concrete out there. There was just somebody put a bench out there for kids ice skating, and then there was a picnic table out there that I believe was put out there when the senior center was developed. The picnic table's about that circa.
You good, Kelly? Any comments?
I personally would like to see something a little more pervious out there, but the big concrete slab on a not so big peninsula. It just seems like what was to what is now is a lot more impervious, but it's just my.
My preference would have been to just mow grass and put a bench out there. We're not allowed to. I mean, we have a lot of instances where residents or elected officials want to put benches and tables at somewhat remote locations at our parks and grounds, and I tell them you need to have an accessible path. We'll be hit with a violation under the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board's regulations. So it's just, unfortunately, it's a requirement that we can't just throw these things around.
Scott, what would the effort be to take it out, take the slab out?
I'd go in there with a mini excavator and remove the bench, have a probably have the whole ram on it, or probably just use a jackhammer because it's only 4 inches thick. Go out there. The gator would pull a tow behind compressor. The compressor would run the jackhammer. The jackhammer would break it up. The excavator would then pick it up and mobilize it back to the access that's just about behind this, under the tree line behind the peninsula. Throw it in a F-550 dump truck, and then we go dump it and fill it in with loam and seed, and we continue to mow it, just like you see now.
Yep.
The only difference is there wouldn't be a pad there.
Would the bench end up at the end of the paved path?
That would probably require more clear. If you look at Vinny's pictures, the end of the path still has substantial woody vegetation on each side. There's really not a lot of reason to do that. There wasn't a lot of woody vegetation out on the peninsula. You can see how sparse it was. There was a lot of areas where you could see, you could view the water body, not necessarily to the west, but to the south and to the east. As you go back to where the path ends, it's all woody vegetation. So, I mean, who wants to sit between, 2 prickle bushes and some shrubs surrounded by mosquitoes?
Isn't there another bench just right down the path?
There is a bench right here.
Yeah.
Scott, if the bench were to come out, would be any risk of damage to that to the waters around there? Could we talk about anything rolling into the water, or would anything be caught by the erosion control devices?
We have erosion controls. Nothing's going anywhere.
Well, Vinny, what do you think? We want to take a vote? We want to move ahead in one direction here? It seems like we have put this to a vote.
Yeah, it's commission's call. I think it's alteration or work in a wetland, so we would either have to amend the notice of intent or issue an enforcement order to have it happen, just according to the wetlands regs. But it can be done either way, depending on how the commission wants to act. I mean, we could do an enforcement order that basically says you're in violation, which I think is accepted, and the work needed is such and such, and clear it so he doesn't have to go through a whole notice of intent or an amended order of conditions.
Yep.
It would be faster and quicker, but that's up to the commission to decide how to make anything or nothing happen.
Okay. I would like to have the least administratively burdensome process if that's the way we go.
If the decision by the commission is to have it removed, I mean, just tell me. This is being videoed. It's in the record. I don't need anybody going through any administrative efforts that are unwarranted. I mean, if the decision is an enforcement order is needed in order to force the public works to do what they say they're going to do, that's fine. Yeah. But if I say I'm going to do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah, no, it's not that I don't trust you or we don't trust you. I'm sure it's just the idea that whenever there's alteration or even restoration of a wetland, typically there's got to be some the only two actions where it can be done is under the approval of the commission, and an enforcement order is kind of an approval. It allows you to do work. It's not always just slapping someone around. It's saying you're allowed or you're required to do these things, and then you do them, you get them done, and then that order is gone.
Well, let's vote it so we can move on and Scott can get out of here and do other stuff and we can move ahead. Fair enough? Let's see. We need a motion, I guess. How about a motion to? I can't make the motion. Somebody else has to make it.
Oh, that was weak.
That was smooth, man. Come on.
I'm gonna move to amend the notice of intent to allow the pad and bench to remain notwithstanding the original plan.
There's a second.
If I could jump in and just have it referenced on the as-built plan as a construction change.
Sure.
Can I add that to it? Okay.
Vinny, but I'm sorry, you got a second coming your way.
Yeah, need a second here somewhere.
I'll second it, but I would also add the revegetation of the area kind of around the perimeter that Scott mentioned that he'd do in the spring. And then I'll second it.
Okay.
So the commission's aware that there'll be another substantial change to the as-built when it comes in. The original trail ran parallel to the senior center parking lot. As you go into the parking lot on the left-hand side, I remember there was supposed to be a disc golf course
Yep.
over there or something like that.
Yep.
That whole section of Bitconk Trail was removed from the project. So it stops at the upper left-hand corner as you pull into the parking lot.
Yeah, I think we knew. I think the Trails Committee spoke to us last month about that fact because they want to do some work around the existing trails. Like
Yeah, around behind that little past the tree line. Yeah, that makes
Yep.
sense.
Yeah. Okay, motion on the floor to leave as is. All in favor? I'm going to do a roll call. Going to do a roll call, right? I was going to do a hands vote. Roll call vote. We are voting for to leave as is. Dan Clark,
No.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote no. 3-2, it stays.
Okay.
So what the plan, let's do a quick summary. The plan, Vinny, is what? We're going to do an amend to the order.
Yes, I can amend the order and put in the conditions, and Scott and I can work together on coming up with some plants in the next 21 days or so and try to figure out what just needs to get done to fill in that 4-foot strip around where the wetlands are.
Yep.
I'm trying to keep the bushes low so we can let the fisher boys and girls out there and play, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Are there any fish in there?
There are. Yeah,
Are
there's largemouth, there's pickerel and sunfish.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pickerel. Interesting. All right. I think we're all set.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
Thank you,
thanks for
Vinny.
coming in
Thank you,
front.
Commission.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good,
All right.
good luck the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's gonna get better. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Moving on here. 329 Crawford, Vinny. That's
They have requested a continuance. They have some adjustments to their drainage that have been requested, and they're still working on revising the plans. Is Vito in the attendees? I didn't see him the last time I looked, so he would be the one.
yeah, I don't see Vito.
Okay, so yeah, he had requested a continuance of the public hearing.
Okay. So we need a motion to continue the stormwater management and land disturbance permit application for 329 Crawford Street.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Well,
Second.
that was a quick one. Okay. So Kelly, roll call vote. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
You vote yes, Kelly?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, notice of intent and stormwater management, disturbance permit for Southwest Cutoff, map parcel 122-4. Now we got a few people here on this one, I believe.
Yeah, let's pull in.
How about anybody with DCR after their name, yeah?
Yes, Robert Lowell, is he there?
Robert Lowell's coming in.
Yeah, and then,
Thomas
I think-
Walton,
yeah,
coming in.
and probably Leslie. I think it's, where is that?
I don't see any more hands up.
Lombardo.
There's Mr. Lowell. No Lombardo.
We might have Mark Manganello if he's on the list.
Yes, he's there.
Yep, I've
Yes,
got him.
LEC.
Coming in. Anybody else?
Is that
No,
everyone for you, Robert?
if Leslie comes, she should join, but otherwise, I think this could be it. Yeah.
I've got a Lombardo. I have an L Lombardo with a hand up.
That's Leslie.
Promoting to panelist. Okay. Gang's all here?
I think so. Good evening, Mr. Chair and the Commission. My name is Robert Lowell. I'm the Deputy Chief Design and Engineering at DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation. This property is a kind of a co-managed property with Natural Resource Conservation Service, federal agency, and the DCR under the Public Lands 566 program. It's a flood control facility primarily. And but we're talking about it tonight because when the DCR and the NRCS purchased the property, there was an existing use of the property as an auto dump and auto parts facility. And over many years, the DCR has been cleaning up that site, taking out a lot of car parts and tires, a lot of surface waste, but there remained a lot of subsurface problems, soil related. So tonight we're going to talk about the remedial plan and the restoration of that site. I'm just going to note that when we're done with the remediation, there is no planned development. We're not putting in a new park. It's to really restore the wetlands to their existing function and passive recreation. We could probably take some of the fences down that have been up there for years. I've had the prohibitive sign up there over the site, which is really located in the wetland area. But I'm going to turn it over to I think if Leslie wants to go next, or if over to Mark. Thank you.
Yep. So I'm Leslie Lombardo with GEI Consultants. GEI is DCR's environmental consultant and remediation design engineer for the project. And I'm the licensed site professional for the project. And I wanted to just give a fairly high level overview of the regulatory history of the site and how we developed the proposed cleanup plan before I turn it over to Mark, who'll address the impacts to the wetland resources and plans for restoration. So as Rob had said, the approximately like 9-acre portion of that larger property, the project area was initially identified in about 2000 as a Mass DEP listed disposal site under the Massachusetts contingency plan. You're probably all aware of the MCP, which are the regulations that specify the requirements for notification, assessment, and cleanup of contaminated properties. The site was historically used, as Rob mentioned, in the 50s as an auto salvage yard and for illegal dumping. And so that resulted in contamination to soil, groundwater, and wetland sediments. The primary contaminants are metals and some lower levels of petroleum hydrocarbons. In accordance with the MCP, since 2000, Mass DCR has conducted several investigations to assess the nature and extent of contamination at that portion of the property to support development of a cleanup plan that will be protective of human health and the environment. And as required under the MCP, we did perform an evaluation of cleanup alternatives and excavation and offsite disposal of contaminated soil from discrete source areas and affected wetlands sediment areas was selected as the best and most effective alternative because it involves the removal of contamination and will result in a condition of no significant risk to ecological and human receptors, so consistent with the MCP requirements. The excavated areas will be backfilled with clean imported material, revegetated and restored to pre-existing conditions. And as required under the MCP, the cleanup alternative will require a deed restriction on that portion of the property to restrict future residential uses. And a post-cleanup groundwater monitoring program will be implemented as part of the evaluation of the effectiveness of removal of contaminated soil and wetland sediments on groundwater quality. So that's just sort of like a high-level overview of the requirements under the MCP and how we're planning to meet those requirements.
Do you, Robert, do you have a plan we could see? Schematic?
I think I was going to defer that to Mark to go over the wetland resource areas, and that would show the overall plan too,
Right.
if you're okay with that, Chair.
Super, sounds good.
Yep, I will do that. Again, Mark Manganello, wetland scientist with LEC Environmental Consultants. I'm going to share my screen here and get everyone oriented. Okay, everyone see this aerial photo?
I can, yes.
Great. So I'm guessing you're generally familiar with this area. This is the southwest cutoff, Route 20 here. This is the Hop Brook flood control area. It's a large, close to 200 acres of undeveloped land. This is the flood control berm, which is existing, and the project area is generally over here. Okay, so fortunately, it's quite far from any residential areas. This is zooming in on the area. Again, here's the flood control dam is down at the bottom of the screen here. And the wetland boundaries associated, or the wetland resource areas associated with this area include a bordering vegetated wetland, which LEC delineated in the field. This is the green line, extends kind of around the perimeter here. This is BVW here, then it takes off in this direction. This is upland. And then the BVW comes back in here and works its way back over toward Hop Brook, which is located more than 200 feet away. There's also a scattering of isolated vegetated wetlands out here. You can see these here, 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 and here. These are not natural features. In fact, really nothing within the project area is a natural feature. It's all been subject to earthwork historically associated with the land use that led us to where we're at now, needing to remediate soil out there. I'm going to, actually, I'll stick with this graphic now. So the proposed work activities in the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction include 33,020 square feet of soil removal in BVW. That's these blue areas here. A significant portion of this area is bordering land subject to flooding. This is a flood control area after all. And the total amount of disturbance there is 66,000 square feet. And we have 41,000 square feet in the buffer zone to these resource areas. The work areas are divided into 5 areas of contaminated soil and groundwater and removal of debris, as Leslie mentioned. And this is all based on the MCP requirements. Each area is labeled independently. So you can see here, if I zoom in a little, We have the wire dump area, which has been called Wetland Area 1. And throughout the plans, the depth of excavation is listed for each area. So this is wetland area, which will be excavated. This is buffer zone area that will be excavated. Sliding down. This is the largest wetland area, referenced as wetland area 3. It's mostly 1 foot of soil that will be removed. There are a couple of pockets where slightly more will be removed, closer to 3 feet. They're quite small. Then we have buffer zone areas and upland areas shown in pink. Similarly, each one is labeled with the depth of excavation. This is another small wetlands excavation area here. I'm going to shift over to the site plans now. So again, this is a very similar view, very similar scale. This is existing conditions. You can see the wetlands around the perimeter. Wetland flagging is here. Small isolated wetlands are here. This is a site prep and erosion control plan, which really illustrates what's going to happen out there in terms of construction activity. This is a proposed haul road from Southwest Cutoff. There's a contractor laydown area specified here. And the haul road extends in and provides access for construction equipment to each of the remediation areas. So you can kind of envision how this will occur in terms of the footprint of disturbance and movement of material during the process. The largest area is this area 3 that I mentioned. This is 28,000 square feet of wetland. This is probably the most challenging area in the project footprint. This wetland is probably bone dry right now, but at times during the spring, it does have water near the surface or even at the surface. So managing water during the construction process is going to be a key feature of the project. We have provided a general project spec, which is that we're going to try to do this work during the dry part of the year in the summer. Would have been great if we had started like August 1st of this year. You know, we're hoping for similar conditions to that. But either way, the construction schedule is going to be set up such that the excavation in wetlands is scheduled for the summer months and will essentially adjust as weather conditions allow. Excavated soils will be temporarily stockpiled on site before being transported off site. A portion of the soils will be treated in situ for lead toxicity through a process that involves mixing contaminated soil with a binding agent to immobilize the lead in the soil. The soil is then tested and can be excavated for transport off site. Leslie can provide some more detail on that process if anyone has questions. As I mentioned, measures to carefully manage water during construction are very important. The NOI report and the plans include extensive information regarding construction methods, including the plan to conduct the activities in wetlands in the drier summer months, utilizing timber swamp mats for excavation in wetlands, dewatering plans, and a water treatment system. Restoration, as Rob alluded to and Leslie both mentioned, the objective here is to completely restore these areas. So where 1 foot of wetland soil is removed, 1 foot of clean, high organic hydric soil will be brought into the wetland to backfill it. And then we have detailed planting plans for each area, which I will skip down to here. So these are zoomed in. So this is that first wetland area we looked at here, as well as the buffer zone area. There's a plant list. They're all native plants, of course. Seed mixes are specified. And this is the case for each disturbance area, including the upland buffer zone area. So it's not only for the wetland areas, all the upland areas have a detailed planting plan for restoration. This is the larger wetland area. This is partially a marshy habitat presently, so the plantings are kind of concentrated in the shallower nearshore areas with seed mix and aquatic vegetation proposed for the deeper areas. And these are some upland areas There's restoration proposed for all the temporarily disturbed areas, including the Hall Road, all the laydown areas, material management area, any area within your jurisdiction that's going to be disturbed is proposed to be restored with native plantings and seed mixes. Construction will be monitored by a wetland scientist throughout the construction process and then post-construction to make sure all the plantings reach compliance milestones. 75% coverage within 2 growing seasons is typically the standard. You're probably familiar with wetland scientist monitoring reports being submitted to the commission on an annual or semi-annual basis. We completely anticipate doing that for at least 2 growing seasons and possibly more as a result of our core permitting, which leads me to other permitting this project's already gone through. This has gone through the complete MEPA ENF EIR process. We do need to obtain authorization under the Massachusetts General Permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. We're planning to file that application very soon, as well as a water quality certification application from Mass DEP. We are seeking a land disturbance permit here as well. That was part of the application, which Vinny was very helpful in guiding us through. So that was included in this notice of intent. We have requested a waiver from your local bylaw setbacks. Obviously, with a project of this nature, there is no alternative but to work within your buffer setbacks. We are focused on removing contaminated soil, wherever it is in the wetland or the buffer. So that is the guiding principle here. And lastly, I'll just mention that we did get some comments from Vinny, and we sent him some responses to those this afternoon. Not sure if he had a chance to review those, but if there's any discussion that we need to have regarding our responses to comments, we're certainly willing to have that with you tonight. So that's an overview of the project, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thanks, Mark. I've got 3 quick questions here. Are there still debris out there? Is there still debris that needs to be pulled out? Has it all been done?
There is a little on the surface and things that trees have grown through that are really not retrievable yet.
Yeah. Okay. From when you start to finish, what's the length of the project, do you think?
Leslie, 2 seasons or where we at?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope is that we can get it done in, probably over 2 seasons. So starting in the summer and finishing late fall.
Okay. There's a road going in there, and there's also an area you laid out for construction materials and vehicles. When you're done, what happens to those environments?
Those are all restored.
Those will be restored also.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any commissioners have questions or comments?
I was just curious, it's hard to tell from this aerial photo. How would you characterize most of these wetlands? Are they forested or shrub swamp?
It's variable. So the wetland around the perimeter is a forested swamp. So this one over here is similar habitat. I think if I recall, there's a lot of sweet pepper bush over there. So, kind of a terrestrial wetland. This wetland over here actually has water in it seasonally. In fact, this has been identified as a potential vernal pool. So that's a different habitat. But again, we're going to try to restore to existing conditions there so it can hold water as it does presently. And then this larger one is more of I would call it more of a marshy habitat with like shrub swamp around the perimeter as you approach the upland.
I couldn't see your species list, but are you going to try and tailor your species to the existing vegetation in each of these areas? Or is it
more or less? This one doesn't have a whole lot of vegetation presently. It's kind of lightly vegetated, so we're trying to diversify the plant community there and increase the different types of vegetation growing there. I think that's sort of a general theme with our planting plan. We're trying to increase species diversity from what was there, but certainly match the hydrology that's present in the area.
Okay, thanks.
Any other commissioners have questions, comments? Vinny, how are you doing with the answers to the questions that you had?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, they've been really responsive. I got the comments to them a week and a half or so ago, and they went through it and submitted the response to me today. And they have their responses are adequate. There's a couple of little details we are probably going to go over and make revisions to the final plans to get adjustments in because I don't think they had time to do that. But once I see that that work is done or those changes have been made, I think they'll be all set. They've been it makes sense to move this thing along. It's a hazardous material site, so it's been a long time coming. So it makes sense to keep it going.
Vinny, in your opinion, can we move ahead and close tonight?
I would recommend closing it and have our standard conditions with also the land disturbance permit has an acknowledgement form that would be completed and a bond that's required, but we'd have to just see that we probably wouldn't be trying to hold a cash bond for the state if as long as
Right.
it's written properly into their contracts like we do with the town. That would probably be the appropriate way to go.
Okay. Let me see if we have any public comment, any hands up, questions, comments from I got a hand up here. Rick Lee. Rick, I'm going to bring you in.
I guess with the need still for core permitting and things, would they still want to close tonight in case there's any changes to that process that required any changes to the plans, or do you not expect any?
We don't really expect any. To be honest, we went through, like I said, the full MIPA review. Now, of course, the Corps wasn't involved in that, but multiple agencies have viewed this. It's kind of been through the ringer. It's not
Okay.
impossible that there would be a change, and if there was a change that warranted coming back to you, we could come back to you with an amendment request.
Okay.
Good. Rick Lee, you're on.
Thanks. So I'm just interested being in a butter to the property here. I know that none of the residences are extremely close to what's going on here, but we live on a Wiles Farm Road, which is a cul-de-sac that comes in from Davis Street, kind of northwest of this area. And our backyard sort of butts right up against the conservation area there. We've been there for 40 years, so I guess I'd have two questions. One is there anything that we should have been concerned about having abutting this site for 40 years to what impact it might have had on our well or anything else on our property? Or secondarily, once this work starts, is there anything we have to be watchful for or be careful about for any disturbances that may happen that may have some impact on especially the well on our property?
And for the questions regarding the well and groundwater, I would defer to Leslie. If you could comment on that, please, Leslie.
Yeah, no, I think the contamination on the site is pretty contained to the site. And as far as construction activities, it's really it would be fugitive dust that would be of a concern, but wouldn't be really a concern in this type of area where it's so heavily wooded, and the contractor will be required to keep dust down. Because of the location of the property, it's pretty isolated and very well contained. There are no concerns. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and how
And-
about, will be noticeable, any noticeable noise while that's going on? Will be noisier than usual while the work is happening?
Well, I think you'll notice some truck traffic in and out of the site, but within the site, I don't think it will, is so much buffer with the wooded areas. I'm not sure that you'll be disturbed by that.
Okay.
And I was just going to, I'm sorry, Rick, I was just going to add that it was primarily auto parts that were buried out here. And as Leslie noted, primarily we're dealing with lead, which stays put. And we're going to be monitoring the low levels of groundwater that we have there. But that was not a driving, I mean,
Right.
it is a controlling factor for the site, but that wasn't a huge, any sort of offsite impact to our understanding.
Okay, I just asked the commission as this goes along, if there's any reason why, any of us as abutters would have any reason to be concerned or need any additional information. I assume we'll continue to be kept in the loop about this, but it sounds like it's contained enough and we're far enough away from it, so it shouldn't be a problem for us.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
You all set, Rick? Thank you. Okay. Mark, if you could take your picture down there, it'd be great. Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Okay, so I think we're all set then. Move ahead here, Vinny. You agree?
I agree.
We need a motion to close the hearing on South Smith Cutoff Land Disturbance NOI. Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Dan. Roll call vote. Dan Clark,
yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Hearing is now closed. Now we need a motion to issue a notice of intent and a stormwater management permit for Southwest Cutoff as defined in the agenda.
Make those motions.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Kelly. Roll call. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Very good. Thank you, folks.
Thank you so much.
Good presentation.
Thank you very
All the
much.
questions were
Thank
there.
you for all your help, Vinny. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good
Have a
night.
nice
care.
evening.
Oh,
Okay. Kelly, if you remember, before your sabbatical you took, we were working on you making the motions.
Yes, we were, and I feel as though I'm doing such a wonderful job seconding. I'm still in the learning phase of
You're
making
easing
motions.
in. You're easing in. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. 69 Maple Lane, RDA. Let's see. We have this
Clark's.
is Edward and Melissa Clark. I see Melissa Clark here. I'll bring you in as a panelist. Anybody else we need in here? Mary. Mary, I'll bring you in as a panelist also. I see two people. And I see three people. You're both muted.
Hi, it's Melissa and Ted Clark.
Hi.
Hello. Mary, can you
Mary
hear?
Maddock, 61 Maple Lane.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Treating the pond, what's going on?
Melissa, do you want me to bring pictures up or are you going to run the pictures?
I can run the pictures if I can share my screen.
Yep. Bottom of the screen.
Great. Is it allowing me? So there was a giant pine tree that fell directly from obviously our yard into the pond. And we're requesting to have it professionally removed with a crane. So first and foremost, it poses a major safety hazard, not just for our family and guests, not just for the neighbors, not just for the little kids that I found running out there, but there have been kayakers, teenagers that have already pulled their kayaks. They climb out, they try and jump on it. I think they're trying to snap it. But for anyone that utilizes the pond in a recreational way, boaters, paddleboarders, we have winter coming, ice skaters. We have snowmobilers that come buzzing right in front of our house all through the night. They'll never see this coming before it's too late. So this is actually what you're looking at here is our backyard. It's our usable yard that we use. This is also, I don't know how tall this is. How tall is this? 20 feet tall.
Mary, excuse me 1 second, Mary, just to get my bearings here. Looking straight across the pond, am I looking at Bartlett Street?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yes, so Bartlett Street is over here. This runs parallel to our dock. So it literally goes straight onto Bartlett Pond. This section of Bartlett Pond is one of the most used sections because it's the big straightaway. So you have everyone utilizing this section, and this sticks out so far. All the snowmobilers come very close to our shore. They all come here, and like I said, throughout the night. So leaving this is definitely going to create a significant chance for someone to get seriously hurt. Also, just with our family and friends and neighbors, it's dangerous, first and foremost. I think that's reason enough to remove it, but there are a lot more reasons. This section has turned into a catch-all. So this is pond, and water can't flow here. All of this is just sitting. It's just going to rot and turn into stagnant water. Again, this comes into our yard. So this is the down where the leaves are is the pond. This is just brush, and then this is our land. So the land comes down like that. So just a few pictures for context so people can see.
Mm-hmm. When did the tree come down?
Came down the end of September, I think. And then I spoke to Vinny, and there was a lot that had to be done in order to apply to come here. So it took us a few weeks to get all of the paperwork worked out, which Vinny helped me with. So it just newly came down. We've had several tree companies come out, you know, and they all agree that really the tree needs to be removed. Again, it's a hazard, but not just a hazard, it's not good for the pond. I had consulted with Matthew Vaught, so I'm assuming that you all had the opportunity to read the letters that I sent from neighbors and from Matthew Vaught this morning. I'm hoping you had the opportunity to read all of those. Matthew Vaught is, he owns New England Aquatic Services. So he is a pond restoration and maintenance specialist, because I wanted to find out really what significant benefits or not benefits, risks that the tree could have to the pond. And he felt strongly enough to write the letter that I submitted to you all. So he services the entire New England and tri-state areas. And during our consultation, he was adamant that removing the tree would be beneficial for both the ecosystem and the overall health of the pond. So in the letter that I submitted to you all that he wrote, he states his primary concern, which reads about the additional algae this is going to create. So not just the catch-all, not just the stagnant water standing here, which is a health concern. But he stated, the primary concern I have with allowing the tree to remain in place is its effect on the water quality. As the tree decays, it will consume oxygen from the pond. The stored phosphorus and nitrogen in the tree will be released into the pond, contributing to its internal nutrient loading, increasing the likelihood of the algae blooms. These blooms can include harmful cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, which have the potential to be toxic for humans, pets, and other wildlife. The overall water quality of the pond is affected by its existing internal loading sources, as well as the external loading provided by its watershed. Taking proactive approach to limiting new sources of nutrient introduction is an important element of responsible pond management. And we know that we all have spent really good money to take care of the pond, which we really, really appreciate. The pond has been treated, but he insisted that as a pond restoration and management specialist, that leaving the tree would be counterproductive to treating the pond and maintaining the health. So we are hoping that you'll approve us to remove the tree from the pond.
Okay, I've got a Robert Parente with his hand up. Is he also a neighbor?
Who's that?
Who is it?
Robert Parente?
I'm not certain.
Yeah, I'm not certain.
No.
He's the Reservoir Street project, but
Okay.
I'm not sure if he has something to add. I don't know.
Okay. Well, Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I was just trying to see if I was logged into the meeting. Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna.
So again, for context, this is our yard. This is usable yard that we use, which now is a hazard.
This also here where it's catching everything now, there's a ton of fish that spawn right off our property right there. Now it's getting all loaded up with all kinds of dead vegetation and stuff.
I can stop sharing my screen.
Did you say that you had children trying to walk out on it and you felt it was a hazard because kids were going to get hurt out there?
So the tree, it's really, unless you see it for yourself, which I encourage all of you on the board to come down and see it. Unless you see it for yourself, it's hard to imagine. The tree has got to stick out almost plus or minus 100 feet from our land. It is enormous. There are very sharp, very large branches that stick out all over it. So yes, I have teenagers. However, I have seen we're in a Maple Lane is a different kind of neighborhood. There's kids running around like it's a nice neighborhood. There have been kids out on it. By the time I get out back, they're gone. But there have been teenagers. Also, Bartlett Pond is used by a lot of teenagers, but there have been teenagers on kayaks that pull right up to it and they get out and they're on it because it sticks that far out into the pond. And again, during the winter, one of my major concerns are the people on the snowmobiles. They come zipping right there, literally right there. That's where their tracks are. They will never see that tree. They'll never see it. They come in the middle of the night.
I can pull up a aerial photo of it and on the assessor's map if you wish.
Sure.
Hey, Vinny.
Yep.
Sorry, I dropped off. I had an internet problem. My wife's downstairs on the anyway, capacity issue. But did you bring up the point of town property?
I have not spoken. It's I just pulled up the image of the property.
Okay.
And so what you can see in blue is the Clark's property here, and the pond is off to the east.
Yep.
This red line was an estimate of where the tree was, but then when I pulled up the 2024 Google image, you can actually see the tree laying down into the pond where it's kind of split along the edge.
Mm.
It's probably she's about right. It's a 90 to 100-foot long pine. So it's extending very far out into Bartlett Pond. This is all owned by the town. The town manages the pond. We've done the treatments for the aquatic invasives, but it looks kind of like the tree is owned by the town and on town property. But as we've done in the past where people own property and they're worried about dangerous trees on town property, we allow them to take them off if it is truly a danger. So that's where we stand here, is that whether the commission just considers this to be a danger or whether it's just part of nature where the trees fall and that's what happens.
How
You're
would
the lawyer
how
in
would
the
the
group.
tree get out of there? You mentioned maybe a crane. Can they
You'd have-
access through your property?
Mm-hmm. So again, we've had several tree companies come out and consult with us. And we asked what would be the most effective way to be the least disturbing to the pond, which would be, lifting it up directly with a crane.
So they would put the crane in by your driveway here where I'm showing somewhere, and then they could reach out and get there?
Yes, they could do that. Like I said, there were several companies and they all had options for us to use, but they all ended up reaching the tree directly out of the pond.
Okay, because that's what, if the board commission does support the idea of removing it, we would have to do some plans and get approval on the methods and means and methods of how it actually is going to occur.
So legal question.
Go ahead.
If, let's say, a snowmobiler does run into this, now that we've been made aware of it, are we held liable, being the town? Or is that something on snowmobiles you should just be aware, assume that there's a hazard? I don't know what the liability is on this. Or if a kid walks on it and falls and, drowns.
Well, it is a pond, so it's not as though it's someone's pool where you can have a fence around it. And there are other spots on the pond where there are trees down. There's kids on kayaks. I mean, I looked at it, and if snowmobiling is a concern, but they should be aware of where they're going. And it's like driving a car. If you try to make things as best you can see it from a distance because it's all pond out there. So it's not like it's hidden around any other trees or something strangely sticking out. If they're familiar with the pond, then they'll know about it. But it is a
Yeah.
concern with that. The idea of skating, it actually looks like a great spot to sit down and put your skates on. But
Actually, so I disagree. I appreciate what you're saying, Vinny, but I strongly disagree with that it's not strangely sticking out. Again, it is the only thing that is sticking out. And that part of the pond is one of the most highly used parts of the pond. So you're going to have people who have been snowmobiling for years that have come down, haven't been over there. They come in on the other side of the pond and they zoom down. And it doesn't just affect, it really doesn't make sense to me if the town is responsible or not. If we know that it's such a hazard, we're leaving a major risk out there because someone should know better. Like that doesn't make sense to me. And it certainly wouldn't just affect the person that got injured. It would be directly in front of our house. It would affect us and our family. And even imagining what we could see or what that could look like isn't a risk that I think is a responsible or even optional risk to take.
Okay.
I'm just pulling up the pond from the GIS, the town's GIS, and the lot is right in here. So it is sticking out into this section of the pond. So there's not a lot of hiding it around here. And then if they're coming around here, there's still a lot of visibility. But again, there is a concern with snowmobiles.
Well,
But Vinny, but it's not just the snowmobiles, but they do
Hey,
snowmobile in the night.
Melissa,
Yeah.
excuse me, Melissa. We'd like to have the commissioners express their
Yes.
opinions right now.
Okay.
Todd
So,
Helwig.
yeah, I'm not sure one way or the other whether I care about taking the tree out, but I certainly don't care about safety issues, right? We can't worry about every pile of rocks, every fallen tree on conservation land in town, right? That's not really our responsibility. I would think that snowmobiling at night, thin ice would be the bigger issue than running into a fallen tree. But again, it's not really our concern, right? We can't make the world safe for snowmobilers.
Anybody else have a question? Commissioners?
I don't have a question. I have, I guess, a couple of comments. I tend to agree with Todd on the safety, but sort of safety aside, I guess whatever we end up deciding, I do think we need to make it clear what the justification is. I did read all the letters. From an ecological standpoint, I don't agree. And actually, I think if you read it carefully, the New England Aquatic letter at the end, he basically said a single tree falling in the pond makes no difference. And it's not gonna impact water quality. It's certainly not gonna affect algae blooms. I'm amazed he even wrote that. And I do think there's a tendency to sort of, as natural events happen, to sort of try and clean up nature, but nature happens all over the place. Trees fall down in ponds everywhere. So I don't think there's ecological justification for removing it. You know, whether there's consensus on the safety, I guess it's a different point, but that's my opinion anyway, from the environmental perspective.
Thank you, Dan. Any other commissioners have questions, comments, concerns? Let's see, we need public comment out here. The only hand I see is Mr. Parente. We know he's here for the next one.
Yes, Mary Maddock and Vince from 61 Maple Lane.
Mm-hmm.
just really would like to impress the idea that we really want to have the tree removed, that it's important for the cleanliness, to keep the pond clean. If you keep allowing all the trees that fall to stay in there, we're just going to have a swamp. We pay extra taxes for being on the pond. And, you know, now if you can't use it because you've got trees down, then, you know, we're losing out on our ability to use it. The snowmobilers come in from Watson Park, so they can get a good speed up to come across and come down to where the tree is. So I would highly recommend that we get the tree taken out.
Okay. Vinny, you and I were talking about this earlier today, and this is an RDA, correct?
Yes, yeah, it's more to find out whether the commission is even interested in allowing it.
So if the commission is not interested in allowing it, it would be a positive determination with a no.
Yes.
And if the commission wants to remove it, it's going to be a positive determination, but we're going to need an NOI filed because it's a wetland resource that we're now changing.
Yes, and I learned that a couple of weeks ago when we posted the public hearing. The DEP reviewed it, and since the tree is in the wetlands and in the water, any work on that is work in a wetland resource area, and that any work in a wetland resource area requires a notice of intent. So we would have to do a notice of intent. It would still be about the same bit of information, same justification, same considerations, but again, with what I was asking for before was the idea of the means and methods of how specifically it was going to get removed and how it was going to be done environmentally sensitively.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add, Melissa?
No, I think we just,
Yeah, that sums it up.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so we need to close the hearing, Vinny, right? Number one? And
Yes.
then we'll take a vote on the RDA.
That's correct.
All right. We need a motion to close the hearing for 69 Maple Lane.
So moved.
Second,
Kelly,
I was not fast enough. I'm sorry.
roll call vote. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Hearing is closed. So now we're going to vote on the RDA and whether the removal will be allowed or not.
So it's a positive determination in whether it's going to allow removal or not. That's correct.
Correct. So we're voting for allowing the removal. If it passes, we'll need an NOI. If it does not pass, then we don't. We need a motion. We need a motion, right, Benny? Motion
Yes.
to vote on the RDA for 69 Maple Lane.
So I will move that is a positive determination so that they can move the trees in accordance with the notice of intent.
Is there a second to that? Seconded by Kelly. Roll call. Dan Clark,
No.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
No.
Kelly? Sorry?
No.
Kelly says no, and I say no. So the tree stays. Now, is there any mitigation that can be done, Vinny, around the safety issue? I mean, for instance, can the tops of the tree, can we prune the top of the trees, those things sticking out?
No one, it's one of those things that seeing the tree gone would be an obvious thing. If some of the branches that might pose a risk of someone when they're climbing on it and they get poked, whether they break off themselves or that's I'm not going to be watching the tree all that closely besides whether it stays or not. As long as there's a tree out there, I'm not watching to see whether some kids are out there and are sitting on it or breaking off branches or anything like that. We just leave it and let nature take its course.
Okay. All right. That's that.
Thank you for working with us, Melissa. It was a lot of work, but thank you.
Not the outcome you're looking for, but that's the commission's position at this point.
Move myself.
Okay,
How do you remove yourself?
we will
No,
move
don't
on.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Leave webinar right there.
I don't want to leave the
Oh.
webinar.
So we're going to bring in the next group, Greg?
Yes, yes, I'm trying to.
Well, Robert's already here. Do you have anyone with you, Bob?
No, it's just me tonight.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the owner is logging in, Mr. Romeo, but
Is
he
he going
did
to
get the
present?
notice.
Let me take a look. There's a hand up. That's your hand. You're already here. You want to be
I am here.
okay. I don't see you. Oh, you're just talking to us. Okay. There's no other hands up, so we can go.
So you're waiting for me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then were you able to, are we able to bring up the, maybe the grading and drainage plan we could start with to discuss the overview?
Sure. Do you have something on the background, Robert?
Yeah, probably the TV. Hang
Yeah, could
on.
you turn that down? It's a little, we can hear it. It's a little, the background noise is a little disturbing.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Let's see, is that better?
That's much better. Okay, now
Okay.
let's see. Something's happening here. We see a schematic.
Let's see, that's back to Bartlett Street. Yep. So we are Reservoir Street, corner of Reservoir and Church Street.
Vinny, you're muted.
Sorry about that, Greg. Bob, why don't you just start with a quick description and I will pull up the file.
Sure.
It died on me.
Okay, so the project is a proposed 3-lot common driveway on Reservoir Street, about maybe 400 feet up from the corner of Crawford Street. It's a fairly challenging site. It slopes uphill all the way to the back of the property, to the south portion. The driveway is about 600, let's see, just under 700 feet long.
Hey, Vinny, do you have a plan here?
I'm working on it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't doing the screen sharing. I was hoping Ben could bring that up.
Yep, I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah, just hold off 1 second,
Okay.
Robert, so we have that in front of us as a reference point.
Sure.
Okay.
So Crawford Street is to your right. So we come off of Church Street and we turn right onto Reservoir Street.
Mm-hmm.
We go up about maybe 400, 500 feet to the entrance to the common driveway, which is just to the east of our neighbor, the Horgans. So based on the entry grades that are required by the planning board with their common driveway permit, we come in off of Reservoir Street, I think at 5.9% for about 75 feet. And then we increase the slope as we come up the driveway to 9% for the next 200 feet. And then the remainder of the driveway flattens out a little bit to about 7.2% up to the turnaround, the proposed turnaround, which is the turning template that I had discussed with the fire chief to allow his trucks to turn around. So the lot 1. So there was a previous A&R approval not required plan for this property by land planning, and I had to revise a couple of the lot lines. So the lotting plan that I've submitted is slightly different than the original Number one, because lot one, which I now call lot 1A, didn't have the required lot width. It only had like 160 feet of frontage. And then when you get all the way up to the back of the property, the south portion, lot 3, the only place they could have put a house, if I kept the house out of the 200-foot riverfront zone, was on the side of a slope that's about a 20% grade. It just, like, you could not build a house or a septic system there. So in order for so this land is in an estate owned by, it's the estate of Robert Romeo. So James Romeo is the executor of the estate, and it's him and his brother that left trying to develop this property, or basically trying to get it approved so that they can settle the estate. And that's how I got involved, to do see how they could get 3 lots out of the property. So the nice thing that for the project is that almost all of the site flows towards Cold Harbor Brook. You can see from the contour lines that the water is flowing perpendicular to the contour lines, and I think there's only a small drainage area up front, a little triangle at the northwest corner. Let's see, Vin. Yep, up near the entrance. Yeah, so there's a little triangle of pre-development drainage there that actually flows to Reservoir Street right now. The remainder of the site flows overland and eventually to the wetlands and the 200-foot riverfront area, all pretty much self-contained on the property. So the proposal, I had to hire, I can't really do the stormwater. I did the surveying and the topographic plan and the driveway design, but I can't do the stormwater management design at this point. It's just too much work. So we hired Mark Elbag, M.A. Elbag, to help with the detention ponds and the stormwater. So Vin's got the hand. There's a small stormwater detention area up front that would contain the lower portion of the site, because we're not allowed to drain water onto Reservoir Street, or we're not allowed to drain more than we are existing. And then there's a larger pond in the middle of the site. That's actually the infiltration basin. So that basin, I actually proposed, in order to keep the commission happy, I actually proposing a concrete wall instead of grading out a berm on the east side. Actually proposing basically just a regular normal foundation wall, 8 foot high. That'll be equally balanced with 4 feet of fill on either side, but that area will be able to infiltrate the stormwater and meet the regulations for the state stormwater regs. And I know Vin had one question that we couldn't use that for temporary siltation, but the front pond is not infiltration. That is only for detention, the small pond. So we're hoping to be able to do some temporary silt storage up on the front and not use the back for temporary siltation. My only alternative, there are a couple lower areas where I have a labeled limit of 100-foot outer repair. There are some natural low areas that I could use for temporary siltation, but I'm trying to keep the work out of the 200-foot riverfront zone if possible, which is the best design that I'm hoping that we can get to. Now, Vin did send me a nice letter with some review comments today, and I can see that his item 4, I can't really address section 7D, 7G. So there's some items that regarding, I think, the septic system and the roof runoff on the lots. I'm not sure I can address those unless there's a full design on the septic systems, which I'm not sure the commission needs at this point, or if they normally do see the full design of the septics. I have
generally, Bob, just to pipe in a little. So so just for the commission, so they're a little more familiar with the site. The road goes up as we described. There's one lot and one house in this area here. The
Correct.
second house and lot are this area here, and the third is up here. This is
Correct.
all owned by the third, but it's not being proposed to have any development because this is the 200-foot riverfront zone. So he's trying to stay out of all the wetlands jurisdictional areas. And the reason he's here is because of the land disturbance permit. So he's altering more than an acre for all this work. So he has to file with the commission. But generally, he's trying to keep everything out of the jurisdiction and staying 200 feet away from the brook, which is very good. So the questions that I have, there are a bunch of details of drainage and stuff like that, but just this is our initial presentation. So I don't know, Bob, we don't probably need to go into all the details of all my questions. I think you and I can work those out, but just to get the idea for the commission and get feedback from them as well as from abutters would be helpful.
Correct. Okay. Just as a side note, we did do all the soil testing, so we have adequate depots and perk tests for 3 septic systems. They have not been designed yet, but they could be at any point. And my vision is that a developer might want to build this together, so he would design the septic systems if that's agreeable to the commission. I'm just not sure how much detail on the lots we need. I guess that's a quick question for the commission.
I can jump in on that one. Right now, that's something, you know where you want to put the systems, you know that the soil testing works and the system's about the right size. So that's all we really need for this land disturbance permit. So you don't need detailed septic designs.
Okay.
But we do need it's the site stormwater stuff as the construction begins and the phasing, and that's the stuff that I was looking for.
Yep. Oh, it always comes down to stormwater management, correct.
So Vinny, you have got some open items that need to be addressed?
Yes, we do.
So we'll continue this till December then.
Yes, we will. I think he was looking to get comments from the commission if there are any specific comments, or if the neighbors, the abutters have any comments or questions.
Let's start with the commission. Any commissioners have comments, questions, concerns?
I have a question. Oh, we're just talking about 3, 7, and 11 Reservoir, correct? Not 363 Crawford?
Correct.
Okay. And then on the application, I'm looking at a map that's town of Northborough, and it looks like with red lines, you've kind of chopped it up, but then I believe it's the stone house on the corner that looks like it's surrounded in a big purple outline. Is that part of this too, or is that just?
Are you looking at the locust map? What 3? So 363 Crawford is lot 4, which is the existing house, the farmhouse.
Is this what you're looking at, Kelly?
It's like across the street. No, it's colored.
No,
you know
that's
that
our
house
neighbor,
with maple
Lisa
stone?
Orr. Across Reservoir Street is Lisa Orr. She's a neighbor about her.
Okay, it's just the whole property is outlined in purple with lines sticking off of it. So I didn't know if that's something we were
That's probably
supposed
my
to be paying
computer.
attention to.
That's
Okay.
probably my computer error. Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
But I can fix that. Yep.
Super.
I know what we're talking about now.
Right. You good, Kelly?
Yep.
Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns?
Just a couple on my end, Greg. I guess for a land disturbance permit, I mean, I feel like we would want some real house footprints that we're working with, some real driveways. I mean, I think if we were to approve this, it would be contingent upon somebody coming back with real house lot plans, so we'd know the size of the house, how much impervious area it had, what the layout was. I feel like these are rectangles representative of a house, but clearly the applicant said, it's going to go for sale. So it would be someone else coming back, with a real design plan for those houses. So I feel like if we're doing a land disturbance permit, we're going to want to know those. And just, the basin in general. I mean, I feel like a development like this along that drive, we could probably do something with some smaller pockets of stormwater as that driveway kind of works its way up. I feel like something out in the middle of the woods with an 8-foot high retaining wall along the edge of a basin, would require a fence on top, I think, for far as building code goes, and I just don't know access to that basin for maintenance. Who owns it? You know, is it all 3 lots that have an access easement over it that can provide the access every year to maintain it? I feel like there's a lot of kind of open questions that I would kind of want the actual developer to answer of this development.
Good questions, Justin. But the pond or the retaining wall is actually 4 foot high, so we're going to bury 4 feet. We only
Okay.
need about 2 feet of storage area, so we got 4 feet of frost wall basically. So the exposed wall, I think, is 4 feet, but it's an 8 foot wall because we're going down to hard ground. So we would need a temporary construction road along the drainage pipe, so that could actually be kind of a maintenance road. So, yep, where that drain manhole has been up on the top of the sheet, that is going to be a temporary construction access, so we can pour concrete, and that could stay. That's outside of the 200 foot. It's on the properties. There's so much information on my lotting plan that I will need some drainage easements when I finalize with the planning board, but that could be done hopefully without coming. Those are just easement lines. So yes, the maintenance would be in the common driveway agreement, which comes with the planning board determination. The yearly maintenance, or I think it's in the stormwater management report. I think LBAG put a proposed
there's a whole
maintenance agreement. He
there's
doesn't
an
have the
O&M
agreement, it's the
plan.
attorneys.
Okay. And maybe it's, once we get to that point, I know there's still some open items with Vinny. I think we could eventually, once we get to the point, maybe it's contingent upon, somebody coming back if the house footprints change or driveway access, things like that. I know it's a land disturbance permit, so I don't know what we require. I guess any changes to the plans would require somebody to come back to us. So we'd have to those people would have to revise the stormwater accordingly based on any driveway changes or house footprints or anything like that too.
I'm going to try to meet with Vin next week if he's around to go through his comments, but I think I could also ask LBAG, what percentage increase in impervious would be allowed without going back to the commission. That might be something that would be helpful to the commission members.
You all set, Justin? Anybody else? I've got a hand up here. Lisa Orr and Michael Horgan. Hey, Kaylee, I can't have Lisa or Michael give them permission. Can you take care of that for me?
Yeah, let me try.
But I went out and came back a couple of times. I think one of those times I lost my my approvals here.
So the Horgans are just to the west of us. They have a house, yep, just to the west of this property. And Lisa Orr is across the street, yep.
So, Mr. Chair, I have Lisa, but I don't see, was it Michael?
Michael Horgan, yes.
Horgan, okay. All right, they both should be coming in for you.
Myself, but
Folks, you with us? I'm still looking
Hi.
at the. Hello?
hello, I'm Lisa. I
Yes,
don't know
ma'am.
if you can see me, but
I can't see you. Vinny, can you take this? Oh, I've got you now. I've got you. Okay.
okay.
And Michael's with us too. Okay, super.
Yeah. All right. If it's okay, I'll
I live across the street from this property. And so I just have I have some questions about it seems like the proposal for the road has changed a little bit over the months. And so I would like to know the width of the pavement of the road. And I have been looking at this same document, and just as a non-engineer, it looks like there's some pipes under the road and maybe the pre-cat, like a catch basin and stuff. And where are those things on the elevation map? And how does that work? As someone who's
Ben, you want me to?
That's yours, Bob.
Okay. So Lisa, so in order to control the water coming off the common driveway, which we proposed 20 feet of pavement for the common driveway and a 30-foot wide easement. In order to control the water, we need to you're correct, put in catch basins and drainage structures in order to control the water. And we also need to pre-treat it before we send it to the detention pond. So there is a closed drainage system, which means it's piped. And that's basically to meet all the town regulations and state stormwater regulations.
So it runs off the road into something like a kind of like a French drain pipe or something, and then it
runs into a
somewhere.
A catch basin. So there's a couple catch basins down in the road, the square grates down at the corner of Crawford Street and Reservoir Street. So they catch the existing road drainage. Our site drainage really is almost all self-contained. So we are going to need to, there's one down at the corner there, Ben. Yep. We are going to need to contain all our water if we're going to get that town to approve this project, this 3-lot common driveway. Okay. And that's where we build a small pond, which catches the last catch basin. And then we're proposing a larger pond, which infiltrates some of the water, some of the stormwater back into the ground, which is another requirement of the state stormwater regs. I think it's 1 inch of the first inch of the runoff, or the 1 inch might be the town regulation. I think the state is a 1/2 inch. So there's all sorts of standards that we're trying to meet, and that's why the commission and Vin sit down and review this plan in detail.
Yeah. Are these circles possibly trees?
Yes.
What are those?
Yeah, those are
tree symbols, yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess as someone who, has their eyeballs on this street all the time, a lot of water does run down this side, the Romeo side of the street. When there's snow melt and a lot of rain, and just off Ball Hill, and I mean, not Ball Hill, the hill behind the Horgans in general. It's pretty, wet. It stays wet for a while and stays icy on that side. So I guess I'm a little bit concerned about, because trees typically absorb water. And, if they're going to be removed, are any of them going to be like replaced nearby, like not on where the road is, maybe?
Not at this point. It's not normally a requirement.
All right. And it's the 20-foot wide paved part of the road. Is that typical? It seems a little wide. My sister lives on one of those 3-lot long roads, common roads, and it seems like it's skinnier than that.
Actually, 22 is what the town planning board might like to see. I'm actually asking for a waiver to 20 feet. 20 feet is kind of the narrowest I can go and make the fire chief happy.
Okay, it's a fire thing. And then it says easements on the side.
Correct.
What happens in the easements? I know what does that look like? And Does it just have shrubbery or,
No,
I
the
don't know,
easement is,
rock or
the
something like
easement,
that?
the easement is a dedicated area, the dedicated area to, do the construction and build the common driveway.
So it's gonna
So
be
it's a little,
paved
it's a,
also?
say that again?
So that part is gonna be paved also?
No, that would be lumen seed. When we get done, that'll be loomed and seeded.
Okay,
That'll be grass. That should be grass by
grass.
at the end of the
Okay.
project, correct?
All right. I guess, these are my questions for now. Do you know how many trees would be removed to make this driveway?
I didn't count them, but I could do a rough count. I don't have that number in front of me,
Okay,
but I would say over. I would. So there's some small ones because the planning board had asked us to locate anything over 10-inch caliper. So there are some smaller ones, but there are a few bigger ones. Yeah, there's a few bigger trees in there.
yeah. I mean, it's pretty foresty looking up in there. So I'm
Yeah,
just concerned that like when that road goes in, like it'll take away, I don't know. It'll be less of a rural character that Northborough, I thought, had kind of wanted to preserve on Reservoir. Since we have a lot of the old houses over here. Well, they're old everywhere, but yeah.
Okay, Lisa, you all set for now?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll be here again next month, so
Okay.
same time, same channel.
Okay.
Mr. Horgan.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Yeah, I have a few questions or comments at this point. I think as Lisa has stated, the project here is on what we call Bartlett Hill. Our property is directly adjacent to the proposed subdivision or home development. And our property gets extremely wet during the spring months, when the snow is melting or during heavy rain. Our yard, the large grassy area, sort of between our house and this proposed development, sits lower and it gets very wet. You can't even walk on the grass surface without sinking in mud up to your mid calf in the springtime. So I'm concerned. I know that the engineer had stated that all of the contours sort of show one way and direct the water in a certain direction. But if you come out to our house and just stand in the grassy portion of our yard and look up to where the homes are, the sort of where the first house or lot one is much higher than our yard, and I'm really concerned about any proposed disturbance or runoff coming from both the structure and then any lawn area. Most houses in town, when they're built, they like to have big, vast swaths of grass and yard. And I'm concerned about that being sloped downward toward our yard and further exasperating the wetness and the problems that we've had from the previous developments that's occurred up in Castle Hill and further up the street. So I don't know how these contours or what the source is, but again, if you just come out and walk the site, you'll see that our yard is lower. So I am concerned about that. I think one of the commissioners had also had some questions about the proposed house, and I know that it doesn't seem clear, and I'm not quite sure approving a proposal like this is approving a certain size home. I mean, you could sell this lot and end up with a 3 or 4,000 square foot home. So I don't know what kind of limits are placed on the impervious area and the runoff from the roof line of whatever house goes in. I think the proposal said it was 2,200 square feet. I don't know how much of that was impervious roof area and where that roof drainage would be directed. I'm concerned about, again, that coming down toward our property at 17 Reservoir Street. But I'm questioning, I guess, what is the proposed limit on the size of home that could be built, and what is the proposed limit how much of that area around the house can be torn up and regraded and turned into something less permeable than a forest floor. So that's one of my concerns, really directly around the drainage and wetness and water coming off the base of Bartlett Hill. I know in looking at the plans, and I don't know if you want me to just move on in some of my other thoughts or just address things one at a time. I don't know what is best for the board.
Well, if you could give us the highlight, because again, we're going to continue the meeting
Okay,
next month anyway. So if you can just get your thoughts out quickly, we can
sure.
take them on then for make sure that they're addressed.
The other thing is, I know that there is some complex retention and drainage situations that are being proposed in this plan. And from what I saw a sentence or two that said that whatever is going to be built needs to be maintained every 3 to 5 years. And I'm wondering, how is that enforced and how is that maintained and who's responsible, particularly with a 3 home development? What kind of what kind of system or what kind of process will be put into place for these 3 homes to come together once every 3 to 5 years to maintain this stormwater structure or infrastructure so it operates properly over the years. I'm concerned about that too. So
That's a good concern. We actually, as part of this project, there's going to be a homeowners association among those 3 lots. And that homeowners association, which is funded and taken care of by the 3 lot owners, they will be doing the operation and maintenance
okay,
in perpetuity.
okay, thank you. I think that's what I have right now at this point. Thanks for your time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, I think we can move on. And we are going to continue this, so we can move ahead with closing the hearing and we can't close the
Continuing.
hearing. Request for.
Do you need a
Request
request
for-
on our end to continue, Mr. Chairman? No?
I'm sorry?
Do you need a request on the applicant's end in order to extend or continue or that?
That makes it very easy if you do that.
Okay. All right. Can we request an extension until, what's your meeting schedule for December? Do you have that yet?
December 9th.
And then, yeah. Yeah, we can, so if we go on December 9th and then there's still a loose end, we will continue one more time. So let's do, because I'm going to try to meet with you next week then.
Okay. So we think you're going to get all your adjustments to the stormwater and other stuff done before the December 9th meeting, or do we want to just continue this to the January meeting?
Let's do December 9th and then I'll know in another week or so how we're making out with the adjustments.
Okay.
Then we can go from there. Yep. Thank you.
Need a motion to continue 3711 Reservoir Street.
So moved.
Todd gets it. Kelly gets a second. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Continued to 12/9.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. 305 Crawford Street. Vinny, this is the one of those others. This is the first one of those 3 houses or 4 houses, I guess, right?
Yeah, was it the southernmost of the 4 houses on Crawford? We've already dealt with 311, 317, and we're in the middle of 329. So
Right.
this is the first one,
The
305.
Dory property, Maryland Dory property.
Yes.
So you're looking for a list of abutters, I think the notes from last meeting.
Yes, there were some issues with in the assessor's office of being able to obtain the certified list of abutters, and it hasn't been issued yet, so we haven't notified abutters. So if we could just open the hearing and then continue it without any discussion, that way, if we're not going to have any abutters missing any of the open meeting or
Right.
hearing.
Okay. So the hearing is opened.
Yeah.
Any comments from the commission? No comments. So now we can continue to 12/9.
Kelly,
Yes.
We're going to
Opportunity.
continue something to 12:09.
Oh, so moved.
Is there a second?
Yes, that's my mother's birthday. What?
Second,
Who seconded it? Todd?
me, yes.
Dan Clark?
Yes.
Justin Dufresne?
Yes.
Todd Helwig?
Yes.
Kelly Marston?
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay. Request for extension order of conditions for Solomon Pond. I don't see, oh, I see a hand up. I see a Carrie Weber's hand up.
Oh, good.
Did Carrie and bring you in as a panelist? Any second now. Here you are. Welcome.
There I am. Okay. Hello.
Okay, so Vinny, what's going on here?
I sent something off to Solitude, Dominic Maringolo. So Carrie, do you have an update on that? Because I didn't hear anything more than he said he was going to get back to me.
No, I have not heard anything from him. No, not at all. I mostly deal with Mike Tartaglia.
Oh, okay. Well, the correspondence that I had, I had some questions about what is how the work is going to proceed, the issues that happened after or the last application, and he was going to address those, but I haven't heard. And I suggested that he could continue the hearing until the December meeting because he needs to extend the permit that was issued on December, I think, 29th of 3 years ago. So
yeah,
if we continue to the next meeting, it's still okay. And since I haven't heard from him, that's what I would recommend unless Carrie has an argument against that.
Would you would you send me that email as well?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That way I can follow up better.
Okay.
Like
So
I said, I
just-
usually don't deal with Dominic, I deal with Mike.
Okay.
And sometimes, you know, they're not super responsive. I guess they're busy.
So Vinny, what information are you looking for from Solitude? Or just a sample?
Just to revise to their plan. The last time the treatment area was larger than it needed to be, and we had problems with the neighbors, lily pads getting impacted. So they reduced that. So what we'd want to do is, if we extend this, we want to reduce the area in the dosage, and then make sure that I'm not sure if they need to do any more raking, which created a whole lot of turbidity in the pond that neighbors and the abutters down the pond were upset about. And so I wanted to kind of clarify what's still needed in the future and what he anticipated for the work being done.
As far as I understand from Mike, they're not proposing any more raking, basically just chemical maintenance. The water lilies and the weeds are more under control now than they've been, but you know, without maintenance, they would come back. I don't know about, you know, that are you saying they sprayed beyond the area where they should have sprayed?
I didn't see anything, but there were dead lily pads down the east shorefront, past the restaurant that's there. I forget the name of
Oh,
the
no,
restaurant.
absolutely not. I
Well,
observed.
it was. They actually documented it.
But
So
I
Dominic went out.
observed the spraying, at least the first spraying, and I very clearly told him where the limit was. It was right at the fence.
Yep.
I did not see him go beyond that at all. So
Right. I didn't see any of it, but
yeah.
there were reports from abutters saying their lily pads out in front of their property were damaged and dying. And Dominic went out and did a follow-up report, and that was the last I heard about this in, I think it was December of 2022. So
Okay, well, that was the that was prior to me being one of the trustees, so I did not see that report.
So did he treat in 2023? Or was there a treatment done in
Yes,
20?
there was one, yes, there was one
Okay.
treatment in 2023.
Okay, so I didn't receive notice of that, and I never got a report of what actually happened. So those are kind of the things that we were
Okay,
reviewing.
All right. So hopefully you get the information back
Yeah.
from
For the next
Solitude, so
meeting,
we'll have
so
that information in front of us, we can make the decision.
yeah, like I said, if you would please send me that email so I can follow up.
Sounds good.
Okay. So Vinny, we're gonna continue this. Do we
Continue.
vote this?
Yes,
Still
you
do,
need to
right?
vote to continue the hearing. Yep, so I don't have to advertise it again.
Okay, good, good. Need a motion to continue the hearing.
So moved.
Where's the hearing? Which motion are we talking about?
To continue the hearing.
For Solomon Pond, 1.7 Pond View, yes, we are.
That one.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Todd. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Continued to 12/9, Carrie.
Got it. Okay,
Thank you.
I'll be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We got some COCs here, correct?
Yes, we do.
All right. I'm looking at 5 of them. One's for 405 Howard Street, and the other 4 are for Fisher Street. Let's deal with the first one, 405 Howard Street, Vinny. Is that any of the issues there?
That one is fine. That was for a pool construction in the backyard. They have an as-built. They have certification. They've got the signs up, and that's all squared away.
Okay. We want to vote that one now. Let's vote that one now.
Yeah.
I would move to issue the certificate of compliance for that one.
405 Howard Street. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Seconded by Kelly. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay. 4 at 44 Fisher Street. I think it really might be 3. Let's bring in
4.
Mark Arnold.
Okay, good. And maybe Mary. That might be Mary.
Mark Arnold, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. 2 people should be joining us. Mary DeFutis, the applicant, and also Mark Borenstein,
Got him.
counsel.
Okay, Mary DeFutis is coming in, and Mark Borenstein is panelist. Any second now. Is Mark?
Evening, all.
Evening. And
Mary, I see Mary there.
Mary is here. I can see her, but she's muted.
I don't see Mary. But
I do see her in the panelists. I think we're good. She may not need to speak, and she can communicate to me via phone if needed.
okay, all right. So, Vinny, are there 4 here? Are there 3 here? What's going on?
There are 4. I was incorrect when I suggested that, what was it, 637 got joined into 678. So it is separate and distinct.
Okay. Mark, do you want to kind of get us onto the same
Yep,
plane here?
sure.
with your report?
So a point of order. So I'm here at this moment. Later on in the meeting, I'll represent Manish Patel. So for this purpose of this presentation, my name is Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Mary DeFutis, who is the wife who was married to Jean DeFutis, who had 2 orders of conditions issued in 1998 and 1999. So just as a point of order, I'm going to be discussing DP 247, 637, 678, and 1222.
Got it.
So I put this together just to help kind of clarify where we've come on this property, because there's been a lot of history, a lot of back and forth, and just to kind of bring the commission members, particularly those that may not have been part of the issuance of the order of conditions that was most recently issued on the property, up to speed. So we have two orders of conditions issued prior to 2000. In 1998, there was an order of conditions issued. Now, during those conditions, when that order was being permitted, the property had previously been developed by the previous owner. This included development of ponds, an island with gazebo, tennis court, associated landscaping. We know that wetland A was being mowed and maintained in some form because the order asks that it be restored back to a meadow. Based on the plans and the wetlands and aerials, we know that there are portions of the wetland A and B series, which were adjacent to a tennis court, which was there prior to the issuance of the 1998 order of conditions, was there as well. And that was also being maintained in some form. So those are kind of pre-existing conditions that we were able to kind of dig up as part of kind of what we had as existing conditions to understand what was there before, what was permitted, what's there now, and how do we reconcile what occurred in the last 24, 25 years on this
Mark,
property.
where was the tennis court?
It was located probably about halfway along the driveway where the putting green is now.
Okay.
So in the actual plans that show the driveway going through a corner of the tennis court, and there's a note saying to be removed.
Okay.
So that's why we know it's there, and so there was already kind of a lot of activity. Again, the gazebo and the island were already there on the property before the order of conditions was issued. So there's a lot of stuff that's been there a long time. Again, this was developed by the previous owner, lots of different things, and we didn't even go back to the history of how the ponds came into being. Per se, because we know the ponds were in some ways built and managed in historic past in this, I think, 70s earlier there. So in 1998 there was an order of conditions issued, and it was exclusively for the river bridge crossing and driveway. I think that the purpose was to get access to the upland where they wanted to put the house, and they knew the bridge was kind of a complicated thing, and they wanted to get that permitted. So they filed a notice of intent for the driveway, and they did a bridge and a driveway snaking through. And as part of that permit, there was a requirement to restore wetland A, so to a meadow. So it was obviously maintained in some form prior to that restoration request. So interpretation-wise, it was probably lawn, field, heavily landscaped and maintained in a way that was not natural. It wasn't like a meadow that you would see that maybe hayed once a year. It was definitely managed pretty heavily, and the goal was to restore that. So those were kind of the key items of that order: was crossing the river, driveway access, restore wetland A, no references to other restoration work on the property and other wetlands around the pond, etc. Nothing else, just wetland A. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And wetland A, if the commission, and I'll show you a plan showing the wetland A is kind of on the side of the property on the east side, and all the ponds and everything else was on the west side of the driveway. So it was kind of like a demarcation zone of wetland A is on this side, the house and the driveway on the west side. I think that was kind of possibly part of the parting of the ways. It's okay, wetland A will restore and leave the ponds kind of the way they've been left, or been built or maintained prior to this. So after that order of conditions was issued, a second order of conditions was issued under 247-678 in 1999 for the house. And that house basically was connecting the driveway that was previously permitted in 1998 to the proposed house location, and it also showed a driveway location access up to Crawford Street. So basically there was going to be two access points to the property. That driveway to Crawford was never actually constructed, but it was permitted there, and it added impervious surface that was going to sheet flow down towards the ponds. But that was actually never built. So that's the history of those two orders of conditions. So that's where we started. That's where we came into the property. So in September of 2021, we had an existing conditions plan that was prepared by Cornerstone Engineering, and that gave us a lot of information. It showed us where the driveway was built, and it overlaid where the wetlands were based on the original plans. And The big thing that was two things were discovered. One was that the driveway was shifted to the east and the north in two different locations, which pushed the driveway and grading work into the A series and B series wetlands. We also noted that the bridge was shifted to the east as well as part of that realignment. So after we discovered that, well, we have wetland impacts here, we determined that with discussions with Mia McDonald was we need to delineate what wetlands are out there now today so we know how much wetlands were actually impacted and where they are and where's natural, where's not. So we could figure out, okay, can we restore some of these wetlands back in place? Do we need to do mitigation? What do we need to do? We need to know where the wetlands are today because the wetlands are all expired order of conditions. We need a new wetland delineation line. And we also delineated the river and the pond on the west side of the bridge to kind of give us more data about the resource areas in that area, knowing that the areas around the central pond with the gazebo, those areas were really untouched and not really disturbed as part of the driveway shifting. So early 2022, we had discussions with Mia McDonald and how to proceed. What do we do? We got these expired order conditions, wetlands filled. What do we do? And so there was consensus that we need to have some sort of compliance discussion and informal discussion with the commission to figure out how do we bring the site into compliance. It's a very unique situation, very old permits, and how do we kind of resolve this in a way that complies with the standards to the maximum extent practicable, while also understanding that moving a bridge is kind of a big complicated problem, and shifting the driveway as well. So we had an informal discussion with the commission in July of 2022. And this plan here, my apologies, it's very grainy. I guess it's because of the way I imported it, but this you can still see the driveway here snaking through. You can see the green outline, that's the original wetlands. And then these yellow lines are where the wetlands changed. So wetland A, which is on this side here, got pushed back down because of the fill that was placed there. Wetland B and C got pushed back on the south side and then naturally actually expanded on the north side. In this area here. And this was, again, this is where the tennis court was, Greg, right in here.
Okay.
Right in this area right here. So there was tennis court, landscaping around the whole thing. I mean, this whole thing was really kind of made different in the 60s and 70s when they built the ponds and built everything that was there. Besides a house, it was kind of like a sports area almost, I guess. So this plan was presented to the board saying, okay, here's what we know is on the property. Here's where we know the wetlands are. Here's where we know where the impacts are. And how do we kind of proceed? And part of that discussion, we talked about the baseline conditions prior to the orders being issued. We talked about the bridge shifting. We talked about the wetland A and B series impacts, the house location, size of jurisdictional areas, basically saying the house is basically where it's supposed to be. The driveway was shifted a little bit. The Crawford entrance was never built. So that area looks good, but the driveway was the area that was the biggest was the big red flag. And we discussed that. And the reason why we had that informal discussion, again, was to make sure we knew how to mitigate and address the compliance issues because we needed a permit that would address what needed to be complied with so we could do those activities, bring the site into compliance so that the old orders could be closed out formally because they're expired. We can't do work underneath them. So basically from that discussion and we had kind of a conclusion that we needed to file a new notice of intent to mitigate the wetland impacts and restore wetland A per the original order of conditions. As part of that discussion, we also discussed the footbridge that was over the river further downstream. The original plans had implied that it was going to be removed, so we discussed having that removed as it made sense since the wetland A was going to be restored. Didn't make sense to have a footbridge there. And then we discussed adding a fence along wetland A to provide permanent protection to that wetland meadow, because that originally they were just saying just restore the wetland and build a driveway, no protection of that wetland. And so there was discussion with the commission about putting up a fence there, and that was part of the discussion there. So after that discussion, we filed a notice of intent in September 2022, and we basically we discussed everything kind of again, but in a formal hearing process, how we're going to mitigate the wetlands, restore wetland A, put the fence up, remove the bridge. That was discussed in one hearing, and we got an order of conditions in September of 2022. And again, that was to bring compliance under 637 and 678 for Mary DeFutis. So this plan here was the plan that was presented to the commission for that notice of intent. So it showed again the wetland delineation that was completed by us where the wetlands are filled, call it the wetland impacts. And we propose to do wetland restoration area along this area of the river and the bank of the pond. This area was heavily landscaped, lawn, right up to the bank of the river and the pond itself. So we figured this was the best place to do wetland restoration replication. Take this whole strip of area between Fisher Street and the pond and river and restore the whole thing as a natural strip. So now there's complete naturalization from the street all the way to the pond and river, and it completely kind of cuts off this whole area of landscaping that was right down along the bank and river. So that was what the notice of intent was proposing. It showed, again, this plan showed the whole property, the house, the grading around it, everything there. And then we went down, and then this was a detail sheet just zooming in further, showing the replication area, removing the bridge, and we also showed the fence. Now, this fence was moved to the west of its location on this plan. That was just per discussion of the commission during the notice of intent. And we actually had that, we flagged it out with Vincent in the field, and then we put it in. And you'll see that on the as-built plan shortly. And so that was issued. And so as soon as it was issued, this was September of 2022, we hired a specialist wetland restoration contractor called Sumco. They do special restoration. They do a lot of cranberry bog restorations and stuff like that. So we hired a very specialized company to do the construction of the replication area. We coordinated with the agent in the field about the fence location to make sure that was right where it wanted it to be before we got it installed. We began construction in November 2022. And we did a construction report in December 2022. So we figured out what was wrong. We quickly acted upon it, and we executed everything. And so we've been monitoring this replication area for 2 years. That includes the Wetland A series as well. We've also been doing invasive species management as required to make sure that the meadow was healthy, and also that the banks of the river and pond were also healthy in terms of removing the invasives that were already there before we started the replication work. Here's some photographs. Again, I apologize, they're grainy. These are from the actual report, so I guess I should have inserted them separately, but I just took screenshots from the actual report. This bottom right photo is where the bridge was, so you can kind of see the bank there. All the erosion controls have been removed now. So this photo has the control still in the photograph because this was taken this summer. But you can see there, and then these bottom three photos are the meadow itself. So the left one is last year's meadow. So you can see it's starting to develop a little longer grass. And then these two on the right are the actual this year's meadow. So really robust. It turned out fantastic. A lot of natives just popped out of the lawn that were there, really lush, lots of flowers and lots of diversity in there. So really good. And the fence is doing a great job at being that demarcation zone. So in summary, why are we here? We're here for certificates of compliance for 3 orders of conditions. Principally, the starting order of conditions that we kind of want requested to be issued would be for DEP 1222. And the reason why is because that order allows us to show how compliance with the previous orders was kind of issued and clarified. And that was for wetland replication and the restoration of wetland A. And then as previously discussed, with 637, the driveway, the issue was wetland impacts and the restoration of wetland A. And then 678 was basically the house, which was basically built. They minor shifting of the driveway on the far side of the house away from the pond, and then they didn't build the extra driveway entrance. So, so as part of the commission's record, we submitted an existing conditions plan, an as-built of the replication area that was built. So this is the plan here. We built more replication area than was required. So we have more wetlands than intended, and the area is robust and monitored for 2 years. Plantings are doing well. We've got multiple levels of hydrology and everything else, and it's been functioning really well. The site plan that is on record with the commission with 1222, which shows the whole property, the existing driveway, the house, and all the ponds features and stuff like that. And then as part of that initial filing as well, we also had the existing conditions plan that was submitted to the commission that showed what was there before we built the replication area. And so our hope is that we could get a COC on all 3 of these orders of conditions, so that way this project can be closed out. And so Mary can continue to live in Northborough, but no longer here, and doesn't have to think about her expired orders of conditions that were issued to her former husband.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mark. Vinny, you all set? Any issues you have?
Yeah, we've got most everything. Just looking at the 3 different orders, the orders actually say that we need an as-built plan for 637, and I don't have an as-built. I have what was called a proposed mitigation plan that had existing conditions. So I was looking for an as-built plan that at least referenced that this is what was built, and there's some certification that it was in compliance with 637. Basically the same thing for 678, was that there was no as-built plan for that one either. But I do have an as-built plan for, what is it, 1222. And when I was looking at that, I did notice that there's a wetland that's being mowed in the area by what was referred to as the tennis court. There's no permits anywhere. There's no discussion of allowing mowing of a wetland. So my question on that before we say everything is fine was, does the commission want to allow continued mowing of the wetlands in wetland area BB?
So to the chair, if there's a certain plan with language that the commission wants together, just to kind of close things out, we understand that may be something that the commission wants to see, just to kind of help close things out clerically. We think we have all the data in the file in the record. It just may not have a plan that says this plan is for all these orders of conditions. In terms of the question of the mowing, this is the wetland B and C. So I'm going to walk the commission through. So this is the as-built replication area, and we're going to zoom into this area here. So this is the area where there was a tennis court. In this area, there was landscaping, and this tree line over here is a historic tree line. It's got large mature trees. There was nothing on to the left and west of this area. And there was already a crossing where this driveway crosses, although not as far to the north. So from our understanding, this area was basically landscaped, worked area, just like the bank of the pond in the center here, which has the gazebo and everything else. And the fact that there was no mention of restoration or protection of the B and C series wetland in the order of conditions that reference restoring wetland A, we inferred that, there was probably consensus that, this area is maintained. We'll leave that, and we'll restore wetland A, which is on the right side of the driveway, and kind of draw our lines there. So that's kind of what it's difficult to go back, but that's kind of what we kind of put together. And this area has been shown, the wetland got bigger in the lawn, and it's been shown as lawn since we did the informal discussion, filed a notice of intent, and it's on the as-built as consistent with that condition. So that's our understanding, is basically, it's not ideal, but it's something that's been historically maintained that way. And it's possible that the historic alteration of the whole property created that wetland as well. So that's the nature of that area from our understanding.
If I could just really quickly, through the chair, I would also note that any current activity pertains to the current property owner. As Mark Arnold mentioned, Mr. Futis does not live at the property any longer. So we'd hope that any questions pertaining to current conduct pertain only to the pending order of conditions before the commission.
Taking some notes here. Okay. All right. Vinny, Mark's recommendation for an as-built plan, is that something we can work with?
Yeah, that's what we'd asked for. So if we can, basically it's the wording to say on the as-built plan that the as-built is based on, or has reviewed the conditions that were in effect for whatever it is, 637, 678, and he already has it for 1222. It's basically the same thing he did for 1222, just put 637 and 678 on there. And I think Cornerstone could probably do that, and we could have it ready for the next meeting.
Through the chair, if acceptable, would it be possible for the commission to vote on the issuance of the certificate of compliance on the condition that as-built be provided to the conservation agent prior to the actual delivery of the certificate of compliance to the applicant?
Well, that's kind of where I am. I'd like to move this along, but I want to make sure that we're that the commission supports that. So let's open up to the commissioners. What do you think about that proposal, which will be approving this contingent on Vinnie receiving that document prior to issuing the order?
So, couple questions. Who owns the property today?
So the owner is Daksa Patel. She is the wife of Manish Patel.
All right. So why? So Patel got issued an order of conditions in 2021. Why did DeFutis get issued one in 2022?
So Manish Patel had a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act and Northborough bylaw by cutting trees and vegetation around the central pond. This is the pond around where the gazebo is, and along the driveway crossing that leads from the central pond. And so part of that violation required the filing of notice of intent. And that notice of intent was filed faster than Mary DeFutis's order, a notice of intent, because his was easier to file because it was more straightforward. Mary's required the delineation, the plan coordination, the replication documents, all that took a lot longer. So there was a weird overlap where we knew about Mary's Mary's challenges to her old orders and conditions. Manish had a violation, so we got that addressed with the notice of intent, and then we filed Mary's after that. So in terms of history, that's what happened. And discussing Manish's order of conditions I would hope it could be tabled till after we discuss the orders that pertain to DeFutis.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that. I mean, I'm willing to consider issuing certificates of compliance for DeFutis after I hear everything all together. I'm not going to piecemeal it now.
So through the chair, it's my understanding that the order of conditions pertaining to Mr. Patel do not pertain to the same work that was authorized under the order of conditions. Is that correct, Mark?
And that is correct. It was there's no overlap in terms of areas of activity or work under Mary's wetland replication work, which is the wetland A and the replication area, and Manish's stuff. It was completely two separate areas. They never crossed work areas.
So if I may, through the chair, to kind of explain this further, this was a post-closing obligation of Ms. DeFutis when she sold the property to Ms. Patel, who is the current property owner. So we are looking to close out this post-closing obligation, which I'm sure the commission can appreciate is 2 years past the closing. But obviously, as Mark Arnold referenced, there was necessary monitoring as part of the replication restoration process of the wetlands.
So, I mean, that's fine. So you are not here representing Mr. Patel or Mrs. Patel.
I certainly am not representing either of the Patels. I am representing only Mr. DeFutis.
I do represent Manish Patel. So to the chair, if we want to table the discussion about this for Todd's sake, we could do that.
It may not just be me. I mean, others might have a different view. But I want to hear the whole story before voting on part of it.
All right, I understood. So to the chair, do we want to see if other members want to hear the rest of the story, and we could maybe table this discussion until I present Manish that way, just to keep things kind of clean.
Sure. Dan, Justin, Kelly?
I would like to hear the whole story.
Yeah, it's all the same property. So let's hear the big picture.
All right, that sounds great. So so I'm going to change screens here. Sorry. All right, here we go. All right, so so this is again Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of Manish Patel, and this is for a certificate of compliance for DEP number 247-1207. So this order of conditions was issued as part of requirements of a enforcement order issued to Manish Patel for illegal cutting of vegetation, including trees and shrubs around the central pond at 44 Fisher Street. This notice of intent was filed in 2021, and this restoration plan in front of you was the restoration plan that was submitted to the commission as part of that order of conditions. There was not a stamped engineering plan submitted. It was basically just an overlay of the existing conditions plan the commission already had on record for Diffudis. Then we overlaid from that plan, which was on record, the proposed layout of plantings. The work that occurred did not result in disturbance of the earth itself. They were stumps and shrubs cut flush with the ground and left in place. So disturbance didn't really occur. It was just vegetational pruning and heavy cutting that occurred. There were some trees and some shrubs still left around the pond in certain areas. And in addition, there were large areas of the pond that didn't have any cutting because there is either grass that goes right to the edge of the pond, or there's other landscaping like lilies and other plants that are just herbaceous that flank the pond. So again, this is not a natural pond with forested bank around the whole thing. This was a built pond. They built it, they manipulated the river, and then they landscaped around it. And those trees got mature and they grew up. And then when Manish was there, he had a landscaper come in. And unfortunately, they went beyond what he had asked them to do, which was just kind of just protect the pond from having overgrown, from having limbs falling in and leaves building up the pond, which would eventually fill in the pond and eventually impact the ponds actually being a pond. So either way, what happened was a lot of trees and shrubs were cut down. We discussed this with the commission under notice of intent. We proposed 38 trees and 80 shrubs be planted around the pond itself. We provided a list of native species, basically similar to what was there, and additional diversity. We planted and laid out the trees and shrubs based on what we knew was kind of there based on the aerials. We knew certain areas were more just trees and had some shrubs already there that were going to come back. Some areas we knew there were shrubs and trees. We put the trees and shrubs together. So that's how this plan came about. We strategically laid out trees and shrubs based on where stumps were and kind of where everything was cut down. And so that area has been, again, order was issued in 2021, and this is our final report from this summer. We have 76% survival of the plantings in the area, so we had some mortality. So we have 76% of trees and 85% survival in the shrubs. Example photos. Here's an example of a very tall red maple, some chokeberries, winterberry, tupelo, and example of the trees and shrubs along the edge of the pond. So, and then another one here. So as a reminder, this area was landscaped. There was mulching and river rock stone around this whole pond before Manish even touched anything. So we basically are restoring back the natural vegetation, actually putting back more natives because there were a lot of ornamentals that were actually around this pond that were cut down. We put back 100% natives around the pond to grow back. And on top of that, the commission got an order of conditions with perpetual conditions documenting this issue, documenting the need to prevent use of fertilizers and other things there. And just to be clear, there was mulching and stoning around the bank of this pond. So the landscaping around the pond has been maintained basically consistently with that. And the current landscaper that's managing this property, he didn't do the violation. What happened was Manish hired a separate landscaper, and then he went back to the original landscaper who managed it for Diffudis, actually. And so he's actually managing the property again, which has been actually great because he's actually understands the property and understands kind of how to ensure that things aren't aren't changed and altered in a way that was not the way they've been kind of maintained for a long time, since basically the 90s. So there's been some mulching. Now I will say, so the applicant did put down a black mulch, which is dyed with a food grade dye. So there is a condition in the order that says no chemical / dye mulch is supposed to be used. So we used a food grade dye to get a black mulch there. So it's a food grade material. So food grade, it kind of makes common sense to everybody here, I think, to basically give that black color. Similar, I mean, there's other natural dyes that can be used like grapes and other things. So that was used in some areas. Now, he didn't mulch the whole pond. He only did certain areas where actually it was mulched previously. So there's only some areas that are actually even mulched here. So that's the condition. So we've done over 2 years of monitoring for the plantings around here. We have more than 75% survival of the trees, 85% of the shrubs, and we're requesting a certificate of compliance to close out that order of conditions for Manish Patel. So that's the history, Mr. Chairman, of that order. And hopefully that is good information and context for the commission as they review the 4 orders of conditions on 44 Fisher Street.
Very good, thank you. Vinny, on that last order of conditions, what are your thoughts? You're muted.
Yes, that's the one in regards to the orders of conditions that I reviewed. It talked about the mulch to be used was going to be chemical dye-free organic mulch. And as he said, it's got chemicals and dyes, but he says they're food grade. I just asked today about the MSDS sheet on it, and it indicated of eye irritants for users to be careful of that. But it doesn't have any assessment of environmental impacts. So it's kind of up to the commission. It was your condition to say no, no chemicals, and I didn't want to waive a condition that you guys put in, so I leave that up to you.
Is that the only issue you have with that one?
That, and I think I have the as-built, don't I, Mark, on that one?
There's actually no as-built required for this order.
Oh, right, that's what it was. Right.
This order didn't have an actual engineer plan submitted as part of it, nor
correct
the order required, because it's just restoration of plantings versus actually what's there.
Okay.
So it's just the idea of the mulch, chemical or no chemical.
And to Vincent's claiming, anything can be an irritant to the eye in certain quantities. And so that's the MSD sheet is dealing when you have lots of quantities of anything can be a problem to the eye, to swallowing, to breathing, depending on the concentration of material, of any type of material. Natural organic materials in concentration can be hazardous as well. So just to be clear about the irritant reference, when there's a density of a certain type of material, MSDS sheets are generated, and they go after anything that potentially could cause it, because again, you can have inhalation issues from natural dust because of the concentration of that dust, because it was collected into one spot versus natural occurring. So just for clarity on the MSDS sheets.
Todd, you've seen the whole story.
Yeah, well, and to sum it up, I think, right, under the DeFutis orders, you just need a as-built plan. Under Patel, it seems like you have potentially 2 issues. One is the mulch, and the other is that you're mowing a wetland, right?
So our position,
I'm not trying to make a judgment, but that boils it down that it's a jump ball on those issues. And those are the current owner's problems.
Correct.
Right. So at least for the whole story, right? I'm certainly in agreement that DeFutis didn't do anything wrong with the mulch, and she didn't do anything wrong with the current mowing of the wetland. So she should be out of the hopper with respect to her certificates of compliance, as long as she produces the plan, right? That's correct. So that's fine. So that's certainly what I'm in favor of doing. And then on the mulch, I mean, I don't like it. I don't think I've required somebody to change it, but maybe next time, because it gets done every year, probably don't do it again. And then on the wetland, you can't mow a wetland.
To the chair, can I address the mowed wetland?
Certainly.
So Mass DEP recognizes that historic disturbance in wetlands has occurred, and therefore the maintenance of those wetlands is allowed. So historic wetlands in lawns are actually found across Massachusetts, and DEP actually has specific guidelines about what lawns, when they were created, etc. In terms of those conditions. So you can continue to mow a lawn that's a wetland if it was always been maintained as a lawn in the historical past. And this project, we took our research back to what the project was prior to the issuance of the first order of conditions. Again, this was issued order of conditions are 637. And that order specifically mentioned wetland A, and wetland B is right next to the driveway. as close as wetland A was, but it wasn't referenced as restoration, management, planting, nothing. There was no reference to it at all, though it was right next to that wetland. And again, this wetland was also adjacent to the tennis court that was there already. So that tennis court was built, disturbance around it, landscaping. There's clear evidence and aerials from 1995 of the tree line on the far right side, which you can see right here, that being in an establishment, and then the tennis court being in here, and there being landscaping like at the corner of the tennis court, which you'd see a lot in old tennis courts. And there was clear vegetated grass, no trees, shrubs in the area that we're discussing. And so our supposition, again, kind of looking back at 1998, back in the old days of issuing orders of conditions, the fact that they didn't bring up wetland B or C as being protected in any way, which if I was a commissioner, I would have made sure, since it's right next to the driveway as well. The fact that they didn't bring that up to make sure that area was protected and restored meant that it was kind of left to be kind of kept the way it was. But wetland A was over on this side of the property. Let's get that area kind of at least addressed up. Again, wetland A was maintained as some sort of lawn. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been needed to be restored. So it was definitely maintained in a heavily way that didn't allow it to develop into a wetland meadow.
So it's our fault.
It's the fault of the first person who cleared that wetland. That's the fault of it. And when did that happen? We're not sure. And we have to kind of go with kind of what's there now. I mean, these ponds on the property were built. So if you wanted to actually restore the hydrology of this river, you'd actually fill in the pond. But we're not doing that. So I think there's some flexibility that has to happen there, because this pond with the gazebo in the middle is actually not a natural pond. It was dug out at some point. So, and it was the river was diverted to flow by the pond, but also have a little bit of water flow through the pond. So we have fresh water going through our nice pond. That's what was happening. That's what happened. So there's a little bit of a balance that kind of has to be met when it comes to regulatory compliance in terms of maintaining wetlands. There's a lot of wetlands that are farmland. You're still allowed to farm the wetland. That's because it's historical activities, and therefore they get maintained. And I definitely I believe Manish Patel is on, and I'm sure he's listening to this conversation. And if the commission wants to ask Manish if he'd be willing to stop mowing that area, I think he'd be willing to listen to that. Although I'm not sure if he's going to be willing to do that, just because I think we both feel that it was an area that was already maintained in the kind of conditions that it is now.
So just while you were talking, I pulled up the town's website and looked at the 2001 and the 1990 aerial photos, and I don't see a tennis court in that area. So I'm not sure of the tennis court reference. When did that come into effect? When was the tennis court there?
The plans for the driveway show the tennis court and say that it's going to be removed. If you want, give me one moment. Let me find.
Okay, so it was probably between 1990 and whatever the plans were in 1998. So it was constructed for a little while there. It's not like it's been there for a long
We don't
period.
know. We don't know when it was actually put in.
Right.
So that's the one thing we don't know. But we do know there was a tennis court there. And also you see the tree line. So if you look at this plan, so this is the plan. So here's Fisher Street. You notice no house up here. You notice the proposed bridge location here. You'll notice the footbridge down here that says Old Bridge. That was the one that we removed, and we removed it because this fence line, this hay bale line, indicated that they were going to come in, take the bridge out, and then work their way out. So here's wetland A here. You can see that, and they did. Looks like they did test bits in the wetland down here, TP1, TP2. So something was happening down here, obviously. Again, the pond being man-made and spilling out to here. And then here's your B and C series wetland. Here's your tennis court. Note the tennis court is outside the hay bale line. So there's something there going on. And you notice the tree line right here. This knoll of contours right here is still there, and this tree line is still there. And it comes down, and it kind of goes like that, and then this tree line is here right there, and this little knoll of land without a tree line on it is actually still there. We actually planted trees as part of the restoration for Manish in this area, to kind of, again, restore trees where they came out in and around the wetlands. So this area here was clearly some sort of landscaped, maintained area that was not called out in the order of conditions in 1998 for restoration, although wetland A was.
Any more commissioners' questions? Comments, concerns?
If you go to Mass Mapper, you can see the 1990s black and white aerial imagery. You can see an outline of what maybe was a tennis court at one point, but it's still all grass. But yeah, to what Vinny was saying, even 2001, there's no tennis court there. There's a driveway. And in 2005, it's not there either. So it had to be back in the early 90s, something that was put up before even a house was there and maybe taken down.
It appears that it was probably part of the historic development of the property. When they built the ponds, they put up the tennis court, they managed the wetlands and landscaped everything. And then when DeFutis came in, they put the driveway through the tennis court, so the tennis court had to come out. Otherwise, the driveway couldn't be there. So the driveway goes right through the tennis court. So it was, again, a weird dichotomy of, okay, the driveway goes through the tennis court, but they don't say remove the tennis. The tennis court apparently is going to be removed, but there's no note saying it, and the limit of work doesn't go around it. So what was going on there? I think there was probably some inferred discussion with the commission saying, oh yeah, we'll remove the tennis court and it'll just go back to lawn. And they probably like, that's fine. Again, this is looking back to how the commission acted and how commissions acted back in the late 90s, which again was a lot different than we do today.
Very good. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Vinny, what do you think about moving ahead with the Patel one first? I mean, from my view, I'm fine with it as it is. The black mulch, not the best. It's not as bad as it could be. And as Todd mentioned, we could stipulate that any future ones are purely organic.
Yeah, that's it's all your calls. That can be done.
In terms of the mowing, I'm kind of going along with the historical reference too, and that it's been mowed before. And it would be just to keep going with that. That's my position on that one. So don't know how the rest of the commission feels. This is the Patel. This is 1207 only.
It's been lawn for 25 years at this point, so
yeah.
Might as well just keep it lawn.
And I'm okay with that too. So
yeah, just
Okay.
need commission approval. Yep.
Okay, let's vote it then. Let's vote the request for 247-1207 with the following comment that any future mulching will be compliant with whatever the term is, Vinny, no chemicals, purely organic.
Yeah, chemical, dye-free, organic. Is that? That's what it said in your original.
Yep. That's the motion we need.
I'll make
and
it.
then there's a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple other conditions that were in perpetuity for snow plowing and fertilizer, the typical ones. But that's
Well, those will carry across.
Yep.
Second.
Todd, there's a second by Dan. Roll call. Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. That's 1207. Vinny, for the three DeFutis ones, is the issue as I don't want to use the word simple because it's far from that. As an as-built plan that covers all three?
Yes. Yep.
Well,
They
like
could
you
do
mentioned
separate,
earlier,
or
a
they could do
comment where
one.
you
It
take
doesn't
something
matter to me.
existing, you made some notations on it.
Yep. They could be all three the same plan or three different ones. Like I said, it doesn't matter as long as there's an as-built that refers to that order of conditions.
And they'll be received by you and approved prior to issuance of the certificate of compliance.
So I'll hold the COCs until I receive those.
Right.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, can we just get some clarity on the specific language that Vincent would like on the plans in accordance with the order of conditions? Just so we're going to go to the engineer and make sure that the language is on there. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what that language is.
Sure.
It's in a condition. It's in the orders of conditions. So there is language right in the order of that, whatever that number condition is. It says what the as-built plan has to say.
So Vincent, just I think this might help a little bit. I've got the plan from Cornerstone dealing with 1222 here on the screen. And this is what Cornerstone did for 1222. Certifying the as-built conditions of substantial compliance with the approved plans for DP 1222 with the following deviations. The post and rail fence was moved away from the wetlands as discussed by the commission, and we increased the wetland replication area. So if that language is basically kind of what you want for the other two orders,
Yeah.
the only thing I think the engineers will qualify is that they'll list the deviation of the driveway shift, but they'll note that the other CDP 1222 for in regards to the wetland impacts. Just to clarify, because we can't be in substantial compliance when we impact the wetlands, but we did comply later on, and this kind of backdoors it in. So if
And
that
yeah,
language
and make
here
the
is-
note, and that way you can follow the record. So that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that. I'll make sure Cornerstone kind of has some good language to make sure it reads well and it makes it easier for the future. So hopefully the next person that looks at this property understands what we did.
Okay, then. So we are then looking to get a motion to approve the request for COCs for 247-637, 247-678, and 247-1222 with the following verbiage, with the verbiage as mentioned in the as-built plan.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kelly. Roll call. Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for your support and working with us. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Good night. Okay. That's all the COCs. We had a violation. Quick discussion, 86 Lincoln Street. Always remember the discussions we had last time. We saw the drone photos showed that there was some bridge work back there. Vinny and I made a visit with the Warrens. I think they were right. The Warrens.
Yep.
You want to continue picking up from there, Vinny? They lived there 40 years, right?
Yes, they've been there for years and years. And what looked like was a bridge crossing was something that he used temporarily to get out and do maintenance on whenever the beavers back things up. He used that piece of, I'm not sure, something he made, like kind of like an A-frame crossing thing. So he uses that to maintain when the beaver activity blocks up the river, the brook, and it's outside the 25-foot zone. It's stored off to the side. There was some work where they had done some filling in some of the wetlands along the access road that goes east to west in there, and they recognized that and said that they would be pulling that out. I would then go out and inspect before Christmas just to see how they're doing. But they also had an existing bridge crossing, and two abutments had been existing for years. And there's a crossing, an old truck bed that he said he put it on there years and years ago, and they use that for access to walk onto the other side and to kind of clear areas where the beaver are active in that area. So he doesn't want to have everything flooding, so he maintains the area.
So very cooperative. They made the change that we recommended. Vinny's going to double check in a few weeks. So they seem to pass muster.
Yeah, they seem cooperative and
Yep.
Willing to get it all done. There was no real time frame. He's got his equipment, and he's got a lot of equipment there, and he seems to get the idea of what needs to be done. Both he and his wife.
Informal discussions, the adaptive bike trail. Any update in that, Vinny?
I have not gotten any additional information. They had a Trails Committee meeting tonight, so.
What about anything going on with the Aspet Dam removal?
Aspet Dam removal, I talked with the folks from Oars, the woman from Oars, and their director, and they're excited to have these dams removed, or at least the discussions starting. And the prioritization for there are 16 dams in Northborough, and during I think it was the hazard mitigation planning process, they prioritized the Aluminum City Dam just up from Route 20, upstream of Route 20 on east side. And then the Rice Street or Rice Ave dam that's just downstream of the MWRA's aqueduct as the priority dams to get removed. The process takes years, but what we're trying to do now is get the property owners' information, find out who owns it, because in the assessors, there's a couple of parcels that are unknown ownership. But once we get the ownership done, we'll contact them because you need to have the owners' cooperation, and we have to work with them because it's an expensive process, but there now is funding from the state and the federal government that ORS will help us to apply for, or help the owners to apply for. And then they do a reconnaissance survey and then prepare detailed plans. And then part of that is coming to the commission for approval for the work.
Good. Okay. And the last item here for informal discussion is the 2024 meeting schedule.
2025.
25.
But yes, I probably wrote it wrong.
You did.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I did. You're right.
I mean, it's fine with me at this point in time. I don't see if anybody has any see anything that doesn't
Second
work.
Tuesdays or second Mondays.
The only one that's a conflict really is Columbus Day on a Monday.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to approve that.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, it's not an official vote. It's just to make sure everybody knows that.
Yep.
And they're able to work it into their schedule, and
Are
hopefully
there
our
any
2 new
significant
members
issues
will.
with the schedule as published? None. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you, Kelly. All right. That is it. Anybody have anything going on? Long meeting tonight. Thanks for hanging in there. Couple things here. Kaylee, thanks for your help. Thanks for helping me. I had some troubles here today. I got lost a few times, so thanks for helping out there. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. If anybody's traveling, safe travels to you and yours and that. Enjoy the day, enjoy family and friends. And if everything's going well, we should have 2 new commissioners for the next month's meeting. They are being voted on tonight by the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, pardon me. So we'll see how that goes. But that will be, we'll be full 7. It's been a while since we did that. So.
And they're enthusiastic.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, which
All
is
3
good.
of them,
Although
so I'm not
they
sure
probably
who it
listen
is.
tonight. After tonight's meeting, they may withdraw their application. That's okay. It's
Right.
too late. You're in.
Yep. Well, yep. They're hanging in.
Nothing else. We need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ken?
Second by Kelly. Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks again, Kaylee.
Night, everyone.
Right. Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.